It's a state championship Saturday across the state of Kansas, and the first state football champion of this fall will be crowned here in just over 2 hours. Canton Galva has gone from the Cinderella team in the state from last year to the top 8-man team in the state over the last 12 months, and today they hope this will be a coronation. The Eagles look to win their first state championship in program history today, but they will have to go through the best team in the West to do so. From Fisher Field in Newton, it's the undefeated Canton Galva Eagles and the undefeated St. Francis Indians in the 2019 8-man Division I state championship game. Hi, everybody. Jim Joyner joining you here on another wonderful state championship Saturday for football. Joining me, as always, the most popular man in McPherson and certainly in Canton and Galva today, Mr. Steve Sell. Steve, a very exciting day for this Canton Galva football program. We saw them at the beginning of this season back in August, one of their first practices, and thought this is a team that could win a state championship, and now they're 2 hours away from doing so. Yeah, and they've just had a fabulous year. They really haven't been tested other than one game. They're just so efficient. It's the same guys they had last year. They're feeding off last year's disappointment, lost to Solomon in the semifinals after having defeated Solomon during the year, so that was a disappointment, and that has fueled this team this year. We came down and watched them practice yesterday, and they're ready to go. I mean, no stone has been left unturned. This team is very well prepared to win a state championship today. Well, and Steve, for this Canton Galva team, I think they have had one of the toughest roads over the last couple of weeks in order to get here to a state championship game and eventually win it, because if they win today, that would mean that they have beaten 3 consecutive undefeated teams. It started off with South Central a couple of weeks ago, winning 42-16 after trailing 16-10 going into the fourth quarter. Then last week they went on the road to Madison to win 46-6 in a battle of 2 undefeated teams. Today we get another battle of undefeated teams as this St. Francis team at 12-0 has the size to match this Canton Galva group, but can they find a way to win one more and be able to be state champions? Well, it was really thought before the season St. Francis would be the best team in the West and Canton Galva would be the best team in the East. So this is really no surprise. St. Francis, they kind of had a real strange game midway through the season. They played a Hoxie team that did not have a winning record and barely survived that game. And other than that, they have just been destroying teams. So a very big team, a very methodical team. They don't pass the ball. They haven't thrown the ball the last 3 games. I have not left a whole lot of room on my stat sheet for passing for St. Francis. They do one thing. They do it very well. They run the single wing. Right. And it's just stop us if you can. And that's where this game is going to be won. And I know we've talked about the offenses of these teams, with Canton Galva being such a terrific offensive team, scoring 55 points per game. St. Francis isn't any slouch there either. They're at 49 points per game. But where this game is going to be won is on the defensive end. This is a Canton Galva group that, even though they were 10-2 and they were extremely good last year, they gave up 22 points per game. This year, they are allowing 5 points per game, and not very many yards have gone against this Canton Galva group. I think that is where this game is going to be won, especially up front in the trenches. Well, Canton Galva's just got so many athletes on the defensive side. They're big up front, and then when you put guys like Brandon Huff at linebacker, and then you look in the secondary with Everett and Struber, they're just tremendous athletes back there. And Kinzer Colgan, covers a lot of ground. So they're a very athletic bunch. Just a very smart bunch. Again, this is a very cerebral football team. And Steve, whenever these guys that are seniors and juniors and upperclassmen of this program, whenever they were younger players and looking up to the high school guys, well, they didn't have a lot to look up to. They had a team in 2015 that had a forfeit a game, and here they are 4 years later playing in a state championship game. Yeah, it just shows, you get the right guy at the right time with the right cycle of athletes. 2015 in Week 8, Canton Galva was forced to forfeit a game to Gossel 1-0. Close game. But, they were forced to forfeit a game. That was probably the lowest point in the, in the history of the Canton Galva program. Then you enter Shelby Hoppus. You enter a good cycle of kids, and it's just amazing how quickly they have turned this program around. Steve, this is the first of the state championship games going on across the state today. The one that will follow this will be between Axtell and Osborne. Osborne 12-0, Axtell 11-1. In 1A in Hayes, Centralia is 11-1 and will play undefeated Smith Center. In 2A in Salina, Nemaha Central will take on Norton. In 3A in Hutchinson, Perry Lecompton will take on Andale. Andale trying to win a state championship for the first time at the 3A level. They've won one at 4 Division II. In Class 4A, Bishop Miege goes for its 6th straight, and I know that you and I were hoping to spend our Saturday after Thanksgiving in Topeka with the McPherson High football team. They lost to Andover Central, so Bishop Miege will be taking on Andover Central today from the Hummer Sports Park. In 5A, Mill Valley takes on Wichita Northwest in Pittsburgh, and at 6A, Olathe North takes on Derby. That game is in Emporia.
Yeah, and of course you and I will be watching that 4A game very closely, because if Andover Central can somehow play Miege close, that just kind of makes it sting a little more, because Miege, let's face it, when they've gotten to the championship game, they have just steamrolled everybody in the 4A championship game the last 5 years. You had a stat. What was the average margin of victory?
Well, they've won by 28 points per game over the last 5 years in the championship game, and that includes a 7-point win over Topeka Hayden in their first run in 4A Division I. So this is a team that whenever it has played at this level, with the exception of one game, has not only won, but they have won big.
Yeah, and they're just kind of a different level than anybody else. Really, for any team in 4A to be able to hang with Miege has to make some mistakes, and Andover, like today, Andover Central, they've got to force some turnovers and hit on some big plays with Xavier Bell.
Well, it's going to be a fun one today here from Newton as we get things kicked off first between Canton Galva and St. Francis. We'll step aside, and after we come back, Steve and I will sit down with Canton Galva football coach Shelby Hoppus. We'll do that in 1 minute. You're listening to Canton Galva State Championship Football on 96.7 FM KBBE. We're getting ready for today's state championship game between Canton Galva and St. Francis, a battle of undefeated teams and the only undefeated matchups in state championship games across the state of Kansas today. And we're now joined on our pregame show by Canton Galva football coach Shelby Hoppus.
Well, we talked to you at the beginning of the school year and went out to one of your first practices of the year, and we were thinking, okay, this could be a team that plays for a state championship on that final Saturday, and you're here, and it feels like this is a really big day for your school, for your program, for the community, and this is exactly where you guys wanted to be, and you're in the perfect position.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was one of our goals at the beginning of the year, and some luck plays part in that. You got to stay injury-free, which we didn't necessarily do, and we were still able to get to this point. So, but the community today they gave us a send-off, and they're behind us 100%, and it's still just a kind of a surreal feeling. This school hasn't been in this position a long, long time, and hopefully we can come out and represent well tomorrow.
Well, and as we talk about some of the injuries, you've had to overcome a decent amount this year, even though your schedule says 12-0 with 10 45-point wins. You've had to overcome losing Tyson Struber for a few games. You've had to overcome winning a game in the postseason in the semifinals without your star quarterback. You've found ways this year to win games, even though it doesn't appear that way in the box score. You've had to overcome a decent amount of adversity this year.
Yeah, we sure have, and a lot of that, I got to give a lot of credit to my coaching staff. Those freshmen, when they first came in this year, they're babies, they're wet behind the ears, and we give them just as much time as the varsity guys, and that's the reason why, is you want to develop those kids, because at a small school, that depth is very important, and a lot of times at a small school, that depth is a freshman. So we developed those kids during the season, and this is where we got with them.
You talk about developing the kids. You got a lot of guys that are playing that took their lumps as youngsters. Some of them played as freshmen. A lot of your seniors played as sophomores, but it's been quite a maturation process.
Yeah, it has, and physically and mentally, it has. That sophomore year, my first year here, I threw them to the Wolves, just like kind of they were thrown to the Wolves their freshman year. With Landon, we took a lot of lumps along the way, throwing the ball to the middle and getting picks when he should have thrown it to the outside, those types of things. But then their junior year, it proved itself to be all worth it, because they had those experiences. They came back out, they played well, and then now as seniors, they've really played well and got all those bad out of the way.
What's the biggest difference with this team from where they were a year ago? I know that size and strength is a big part of that, but maybe other than that, what do you see as the biggest difference for these guys from where they were a year ago?
I think a lot of it's just the experience. Last year we were an unknown team that kind of the Cinderella story is what people called us, and now they're expected to win, and they know they're expected to win. They knew they were going to come in as a very good football team this year, and they've taken that and they've ran with it. And the experience of last year and their sophomore year, it's all built up to what they've done this year.
St. Francis, obviously a tremendous football team. They're very much like you, and last year, they won all but one game, and they got deep into the playoffs, and they basically have a lot of guys back. So
it's very similar. It's like looking in the mirror almost.
Yeah, I think tomorrow the Dinkle kid's the only senior that puts in big time for him, so next year they're going to be really, really good again. But that, this time of year you're probably playing teams that are mostly juniors and seniors. Those are the teams that are usually the best. So I think it'll be a heck of a matchup.
And they're a team that also, all 8 guys that play on offense start on defense. They are kind of an Iron Man type team.
They are, and we've noticed that on film. When they have to bring in depth, it's something they don't want to do a lot of. They don't have a lot of kids that they really trust to bring in. So hopefully we can go fast and get them more down a little bit and make them start using that depth.
Well, we've joked a little bit that we haven't had to play a full game this year until the last few, and that you were wondering about conditioning and how well this team would be able to perform in a fourth quarter. St. Francis is in a similar spot where they have less guys that play, plus they haven't played late into very many games. In the last 2 weeks, you guys have been a really good second-half football team. How do you see that coming into play Saturday?
Oh, this is going to be a 4-quarter game. We know it's going to be a 4-quarter game. Their physicality, their size, they're going to throw some haymakers at us, and it's just how you respond to it. We're going to throw some haymakers at them too. So it's definitely going to be a 4-quarter game, but it's one that we're comfortable playing 4 quarters. We conditioned last week at practice each day, and we're looking for a heck of a matchup.
Something about this St. Francis team, they don't like to throw the football. I think they haven't thrown it for about 3 games, and when you prepare for a team like that, do you just cheat up a lot, or do you just have to still play your same defense?
Well, we'll read defense anyway, so we're reading guards and linemen, and when they come out in a run block, we're going to defend the run, and if they come out in a hi-hat and show pass, we're going to defend the pass. So even though they never do it, they still have to hi-hat to pass it. So as long as we trust those reads and make those reads, we should be fine.
Well, I know that these 2 offenses have been 2 of, if not the 2 best offenses in 8-man 1 this year, but I really do think that Saturday's game comes down to whose defense is going to make some plays, because they're very big and physical up front. You guys are very big and physical up front. Is it the defense to you that stands out a lot for this game Saturday?
Oh, I think so. And I think the major part of that defense, a lot of teams have been able to get to them in the backfield, but very few teams have been able to bring them down. I call it slippery or whatever you want to call it. They're hard to tackle. So that's going to be key for us, is making sure when we get there, they got to be on the ground, and there's got to be 7 other hats coming, because we got to gang tackle these guys and make sure that we tackle them each and every time.
What similarities do you see between Dinkle, their quarterback, and Landon Everett, your quarterback?
He's a little bigger, but they're both kind of the same player. Landon may throw it a little better, but they're power run football players. They both are probably more of a running back than they are a quarterback. They're fun to watch. They lead their teams. Very, very similar players.
Well, it's a state championship Saturday, and how much have you talked about with your guys the importance of playing in a game like this, and the uniqueness and how special this is, and the opportunity that is presented to them? How much have you guys talked about that this week?
Yeah, I've talked about it some. I've kind of, decided not to talk about it as much. Just, you don't want to overwhelm them. You want them to be comfortable with the game. It's a high school football game. They have to come out, and it's just between the hashes. You're going to go play football. So we have talked about it a little bit, and how we are representing the east side of the state, and the east side of the state hasn't been represented very well the last 5 to 10 years in this game. So but that's just some more motivation for us to go out and play well.
Should be a fun one. Let's hope the weather is a little warmer than it was on Friday. Coach Hoppus, best of luck.
Yep, thank you.
That was Canton Galva football coach Shelby Hoppus getting ready for the Eagles and the Indians of St. Francis today in the 8-man Division I state championship game. We'll take another break and come back and take a look at starting lineups for today's game from down at Newton at Fisher Field. You're listening to Canton Galva football on 96.7 FM KBBE. We continue on our CHS Refinery at McPherson pregame show this morning from Newton at Fisher Field. Jim Joyner and Steve Sell for the 8-man Division I state championship game between the undefeated 12-0 Canton Galva Eagles and the undefeated 12-0 St. Francis Indians. Steve, the only matchup of undefeated teams here on a state championship Saturday, and I think this could be one of the most competitive state championship games across the entire state today. Frankly, there are a few games in the bigger classes that I don't think will be close at all. I get the feeling that this might be the best game on the docket today, and it's the first game of the day.
Yeah, you're right. And, both teams are prolific offensively. Canton Galva having scored over 50 points a game. St. Francis around 48, 49 points a game. But I think you're going to see this game somewhere like in the high 20s. I just have a feeling the defenses are really good. You look at St. Francis, they have got some dudes, man. They have got this Neitzel, Colton Neitzel, he and Cutter Neitzel, the brothers there, they are both just absolute beast-looking players. And, of course, Canton Galva, very physical up front. That's where, they beat a lot of teams is with that the interior three that they have.
Well, Steve, let's talk about those interior team and the starting lineups for Canton Galva, brought to you by Art Shirt Gear for Sport at 211 North Main in downtown McPherson. And quarterback for Canton Galva will be Landon Everett, 5'10", 172-pound senior. He has passed for 1,181 yards, 27 touchdowns, just one interception this season, while rushing for 1,104 yards for 22 touchdowns. So 49 combined touchdowns and more than 2,000 yards. Not a bad year for the senior Landon Everett, who is battling a shoulder injury. Had that happen in the Madison game, and we believe he'll be good to go today.
And remember, Landon Everett's numbers are a bit skewed because he basically did all that playing half a game.
Right.
Because when you look at Canton Galva's record, 12-0, when you add up the number of quarters they played, it's only comes up to 7. So 7 full games. So his numbers are a bit skewed. And remember, a lot of those games, too, he was only playing a quarter, maybe a few plays into the second quarter.
Canton Galva's number one running back is Braden Collins, 6', 185-pound junior. He has also rushed for more than 1,100 yards on the season with 16 touchdowns and had a really big game against Madison last week. 26 carries for 128 yards. Also a 19-carry, 173-yard, 3-touchdown performance against South Central, with a lot of those runs coming in the fourth quarter as the Eagles were able to win that game 42-16. At wide receiver, Tyson Struber, 6'2", 176-pound sophomore, 25 catches, 592 yards, and 13 touchdowns, and that is missing about 4 games on this season as well. Kinzer Colchin, 30 catches for 469 yards and 12 touchdowns, a 6'1", 142-pound senior. Up front for this Canton Galva team, you'll see Connor Kane, 6'3", 193-pound senior. Nick Pearson, 5'10", 224-pound senior. Jay Nightingale is the center at 5'10", 251 pounds. He is a senior. And Keaton Luttrell, 5'10", 222-pound junior. They'll use a couple of tight ends in Tyler Rummel, 5'11", 182-pound junior. And Brandon Huff, 5'10", 180 pounds. He is a junior. Those are the Canton Galva Eagles on the offensive side of the ball. And Steve, this Canton Galva offense has only scored 55 points per game, as well as 344 yards per game. They have scored 85 offensive touchdowns on the year as the Eagles are being introduced over here on the near sideline, and a ton of Canton Galva fans are here.
Well, I think the last people out of town in both Canton and Galva probably turned out the lights, although they could probably leave them on since they're going to be back by 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, but a lot of McPherson people here too, a lot of McPherson County people here. Canton Galva's, they're the flag bearer this week of the county, and a lot of people in the county very proud of what Canton Galva has done this year.
Canton Galva's defensive starters brought to you by Art Shirt Gear for Sport. Mason Reedy and Nick Pearson at defensive end. The defensive tackle is Connor Kane. Linebackers are Braden Collins and Brandon Huff. And in the secondary, Kinzer Colchin on one corner, Tyson Struber on one corner, and Landon Everett is the free safety. This is a defense that in just these 12 games and pretty much just a half this year, they have 16 interceptions. That was coming off of their 27 interceptions, state record tying season last year. This defense is holding its opponents to 5 points per game. And this is where I think this Canton Galva team has the edge today. Their defense has a chance to stop this very tough St. Francis single wing offense.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be an adjustment period early for Canton Galva's defense. When you go up against the single wing, you have a lot of direct snaps, some spinner action by whoever the snap man is. You got to do your assignments. It's assignment football, as you hear that phrase many times. But I think once they adjust all the action, they'll be just fine.
St. Francis does not have a traditional quarterback, although the main threat that they would have to throw would be Brady Dinkle, a 180-pound senior who has rushed for 1,639 yards on the season with 40 total touchdowns. Shadron Blanca is their other feature back at 1,625 yards and 25 total touchdowns on the season. And with this St. Francis team, Steve, we talked about it with Coach Hoppus a moment ago. This is a team that really doesn't go too deep anywhere. Almost all of their 8 players on one side play on the same side defensively.
Actually, all 8 do. I mean, at least they start the game that way. I know they come in with some subs. But you won't see any guys come out of the game when there's a switch from offense to defense.
And that is where this Canton Galva team hopes that it can be at its best with that conditioning. Late in this game, they have had to play 2 very tough games in the last 2 weeks and have been able to win in the second half. And that is their goal here today for the 8-man Division I state championship game between Canton Galva and St. Francis. We'll take another break here on our CHS Refinery at McPherson pregame show from Newton. When we come back, we'll give you our keys to the game this afternoon, brought to you by Alliance Agency, Inc. You're listening to Canton Galva State Championship Football on 96.7 FM KBBE. We're back this morning from Newton at Fisher Field for the 8-man Division I state championship game. The Division I game happening first this morning, then the Division II game between Axtell and Osborne coming up a little later today. Steve Sell, this Canton Galva team, under the direction of Shelby Hoppus in his 3rd season, this team has reached the promised land here today, and we hope to see they fulfill their destiny with a chance to win here this afternoon.
Yeah, this is their 3rd chance to play for a state championship. A lot of teams would be happy just to play 1. This is 3 for Canton Galva, and at some point you just got a feeling, they've been knocking on the door. It's time to knock it down.
Well, speaking of those opportunities, in 1979, your first year here in McPherson County, which, long time ago, that must have been if it was your first year.
That's right.
That was the 1979 1A game. Canton Galva was still 1A at the time. Lost to Hutch Trinity 8-6. And then in 1991, in the 8-man title game, lost to Sharon Springs, Wallace County 52-30, and that in 1991. So it's been almost 30 years for this team to make it back to a state championship game. There were some times where it certainly didn't look pretty over the last decade, but in order to get to a game like this, you have to do something right, and they've done it right all season long and for the last 2 years.
Yeah, they really have. And Shelby Hoppus, of course, and his coaching staff, they deserve a lot of credit. They have they put the time in, they put the work in. They kind of followed a little bit of the McPherson High template that Tom Young, with the weight training, and Shelby Hoppus has really implemented that very strong. It shows. You look at these Canton Galva kids, you don't see guys on the field that just don't look like they can't play. I mean, they all look like if you put them in there, from a maturity standpoint, from a physical standpoint, they look like they belong on the field. So this is just going to, it's going to be a great game today. And I just got a feeling this might be Canton Galva's day.
For those of you that are a little unfamiliar with 8-man football, maybe you're McPherson High football fans or not really high school football fans at all, and you're just tuning in today, for our setup here at Newton, it is very interesting. So the center of the field is at the 50-yard line like normal, but it's not the 50-yard line in 8-man football. It's the 40-yard line since it's an 80-yard field. So that means that the end zones here at Newton are at the 10. The back of the end zone is at the normal goal line going into the end zone. So it's an 80-yard field, but it goes 100 yards because you have 10 yards in the end zone. The field is also more narrow, so the out-of-bounds line is just on the other side of the numbers on both sides. So probably, 7 yards on each side of the field, Steve, shorter?
Probably. Yeah, and so if we get a little confused early in the game until we adjust, if the ball, we're looking down on the field and we see the big 5-0. That's the 40.
Well, Canton Galva has won the coin toss here this afternoon, and the Eagles say we want the football. And the other element today, Steve, is that we are in a wind advisory, and we think that winds could be gusting later today as high as 55 miles per hour. Currently just 22 miles per hour blowing out of the southwest. Steve Sell, it's a state championship Saturday, and that means I need your keys to the game. Brought to you by Alliance Agency, Inc.
I think the key to the game for Canton Galva comes on the defensive side. Don't get caught up in all the spinner motion, the fake and ball handle. Do your adjustment or do your assignments on defense. And I think if they do that, I think they win this football game.
So Canton Galva will receive. Back deep to receive for these Eagles will be Landon Everett as well as Tyson Struber. Each of them have a kickoff return for a touchdown this season. And this is a St. Francis team that played in the state championship game 3 years ago when this senior group when they were freshmen in 2016, losing at that point to Osborne. So Canton Galva trying to play spoiler. Instead of Landon Everett back deep to receive on the opening kickoff here, it will be Kinzer Colgin. So Colgin as well as Tyson Struber back deep to receive for this Eagle team. And Steve, this is a Canton Galva group that we have followed closely all year long, and a group that is poised and determined for state title number 1 today.
Yeah, and if you're listening in the crowd, they are standing on the 5-yard line. It says the 15, but that is the 5-yard line.
Brady Dinkle will kick off for the St. Francis team, a guy who has been receiving looks and offers and has taken visits to Kansas State, a guy that they're very interested in Manhattan. So he will kick off from the 30-yard line to our right with the wind slightly at his back, the wind more blowing across the field. Brady Dinkle and the St. Francis Indians in their white jerseys, green numbers, green pants, and green helmets. Canton Galva with its blue jerseys, red numbers, white pants, and white helmets. Brady Dinkle steps up and boots this one away, and we are underway here in the 2019 8-man Division I state championship game. Ball is fumbled around and finally picked up Colgan back at his 8-yard line. He couldn't pick it up and was taken down at the 8. It was a squib kick that came back, and the Eagles fortunately fall on it. It's on 1st down and 10. Throws one to the outside. Ball is caught by Tyson Struber, who's got the first down and crosses the 20 out to the 27-yard line. Landon Everett, that shoulder doesn't look like it's hurting him too bad to start this game. Finds his trusted receiver, Tyson Struber, out to the 27.
Big pickup of 19 yards on that play for the Eagles.
1st down and 10 for the Eagles at the 27-yard line, going from left to right. 2 receivers near side. Everett passes. This one short, cut by Kinzer Colgan at the 30. Colgan is then gang tackled here on the near side by Kobe Tice. They will give him a gain of 4 up to the 31-yard line. 2nd down and 6 for the Eagles, just underway.
And a little surprising, the Eagles coming out throwing the football into this crosswind.
And throwing with the injured Landon Everett. I'm sure that St. Francis has heard all week, ooh, that shoulder might be hurting him, and they say, hey, we're ready to throw the football today.
And now they can attack with the run because they've got him thinking pass.
2nd and 6 from the 31. Landon Everett here on the near hash. Tyson Struber is his near side receiver. Kinzer Colgan and Brandon Huff lined up to the top side. St. Francis loads the box with 5. Canton Galva with 4 in a block. Everett trying to air one out down the near sideline for Tyson Struber. It hits off of his fingertips at the 20 on the other side of the field. Covered all the way down the field by Brady Dinkle. And that one had a chance to go big for 6, but it's incomplete. And our first 3rd down of the game from the 31.
Well, Tyson Struber may be a sophomore, but he's got senior-type athleticism. He's a big guy, about 6'2", tremendously fast, and has recovered from a broken hand.
Landon Everett and the Eagles with a 3rd down and 6 at their own 31. Just over a minute gone here in this game so far. Landon Everett with an empty gun. Snap comes back to Everett. Looking to pass, having to roll to his far side. Everett chased down and taken down at the 21. Pressure comes in there as the Indians were able to get to him. Adam Krein was there, as well as Jesse Baxter, the 2 defensive ends. Ball goes all the way back for a loss of 10 back to the 21, and a punt coming up for this Eagle team who has only done it 6 times this year.
Yeah, I'm just used to Canton Galva running the football, and they came out and did not run the ball one time, with a rushing attempt.
The Eagles will punt this one away, as this will be Braden Collins to punt. Nobody back for St. Francis, and now Dinkle will move. Left-footed punt comes back to Brady Dinkle. It bounces inside the 30, picked up by Dinkle at his 22. Dinkle runs up the middle, and then it's taken down by a gang of Canton Galva Eagles as they bring him down at the 32-yard line. In there to make the tackle for Canton Galva was Garrett Maltby, the freshman who plays in the secondary for this team. St. Francis will start for the first time with a football at its own 31, 10:04 to go first quarter.
Well, Collins doesn't punt very much, but he got 37 on that one.
He averages 35.
Kind of flipped the field a little bit.
And punting into a slight wind, here is the St. Francis single wing offense. As the Indians immediately will snap it back to Shadron Blanca, and he is hit at the line of scrimmage. The Canton Galva Eagles surge and take him down for no gain.
And if that's their basis of their offense, they're going to into a lot of trouble because Canton Galva just stuffed that middle right there.
Well, St. Francis ran right into the middle of 8 different Canton Galva Eagles. Up there leading the charge was Nick Pearson as well as Connor Kane. 2nd and 10 for St. Francis at its own 31. Some movement up front. Snap comes back. Brady Dinkle tries to run near side, and he is upended at the line of scrimmage. There to hit him, Tyson Struber for a gain of 1 to the 32. 3rd down and 9, St. Francis.
Yeah, so far, you have to remember, they have not thrown a pass in 3 games. Canton Galva crowding the line of scrimmage. There's just nowhere to run right now.
3rd down and 9 for St. Francis. Approaching 3 minutes gone first quarter. Indians with the ball for the first time after a Canton Galva punt. Single wing offense. as Brady Dinkle is in a shotgun look. Some movement on the line again, but they get the snap back to Dinkle. Tries to run to the top side. Dinkle runs out of room, and he's taken down at the 44. Just a gain of 2 for Brady Dinkle, making this a 4th down and 7. Now, we do know that St. Francis likes to gamble. They like to go for it on 4th down, and we'll see if they decide to do that here approaching midfield at the 40.
I can't imagine with a little wind at their back. It looks like they are going to punt.
Brady Dinkle is back deep to punt. He will punt from his own 25. Back deep to receive for Canton Galva is Tyson Struber. And this is a nice punt by Brady Dinkle, angling toward the near sideline and goes out of bounds at the 8. A great angling punt by Brady Dinkle pins the Eagles back deep at their own 8. Both teams come up with punts and stops on their first drive.
And the second straight drive for Canton Galva to start on the 8.
Both teams with a couple of punts, 8:22 to go here in this opening quarter. Canton Galva gets the football for the second time. They passed on every down the previous drive. Braden Collins, the running back behind Landon Everett. Collins has rushed for 1,119 yards on the season. He now moves to the left hip of quarterback Landon Everett. Now moves back to the right hip. First down and 10 for the Eagles from their 8-yard line with 5 in to block, 1 out to receive. Hand off Collins. Collins tries to run to the outside, gets through the line of scrimmage, and is tripped up at the 11-yard line. And on the tackle, Brady Dinkle for St. Francis. It'll be second down, and they'll call it 7.
Canton Galva with a more traditional backfield now. They had no backs, but you can see already the influence of the shoulder injury for Everett. He has not run the ball except when he got sacked that one time.
Last year, he rushed for 1,636 yards. So far this year, just 1,104. Second down and 7, snap to Everett. He'll throw one over the middle and had his man Tyler Rummel on the Tebow jump pass, but this one is overthrown. Rummel lined up as the tight end, and they tried to jump at the line of scrimmage and find him over the middle, but it's incomplete. Third down and 7. I like the play call there.
I love
just
the
a
play
little
call.
overthrown.
Yeah, I think if Rummel also delays just a split second longer, he would have been a little more wide open, kind of tipped that play off a little bit, but a great play call for Canton Galva.
7:48 left to go. First quarter, no score between Canton Galva and St. Francis. Eagles with the football at their own 11, third down and 7. Snap comes back to Everett. Looks the pass near side. Pass is thrown to Tyson Struber, who makes the catch of the 15. They'll give him forward progress to the 17, and he's going to be 1 yard short. He turned, and I think they gave him a pretty generous spot to the 17, but it's 4th down and 1.
Wow.
Punting into the wind, what do you do here? Do you give St. Francis the opportunity at field position, as it looks like the Eagles will run on the punt team as Braden Collins is lined up in the gun? 4th and 1.
And remember, Braden Collins can run the football out of this formation.
We'll see what they decide to do, and they snap it back to Collins. It goes over his head, and St. Francis falls on it inside the 10. They'll grab it at the 7-yard line. Jumping on the football was Jace Nider. As they were trying to snap it back to Braden Collins, it went over his head and through his hands, and St. Francis takes over at the Canton Galva 7.
Well, we talk about turnovers in big games like this. A big turnover for the Eagles there.
So Canton Galva gives it right back to St. Francis at the 7-yard line, 1st and goal. They'll hand off or take the snap immediately back to Shadran Blanca. Blanca gets to the outside, ran to the near side. It was all bottled up and runs to the top side and scores. St. Francis takes a 6-0 lead with 7:03 to go here in the opening quarter. Shadran Blanca scores his 26th touchdown of the season, and St. Francis will go for 2. So a 7-yard rushing touchdown for Shadran Blanca. St. Francis will go for 2, running to the near side, diving for the pylon and in, as this was Adam Crine that takes it in. St. Francis takes an 8-0 lead after the botched fake punt, and this one will go back to Canton Galva on offense. Steve, a tough break for this Eagle team, and you just can't afford to give a good offense like St. Francis that good field position.
Yeah, and I think the play was there. I think Collins just got in a little bit of a hurry there, and I think the hole was open. So I like the play call, going for it, because you're not going to punt it very far into that wind, but you got to execute. And so far, Canton Galva has fumbled a kickoff and now fumbled on a punt. So a couple early miscues for the Eagles.
7:03 left to go here in this opening quarter. St. Francis on the board first. This is a St. Francis offense that scored 49 points per game during the first 12 games. And now the Eagles will try and get things rolling here.
And they have been behind a couple times this year.
Not many.
Not many, but they were down 16-10 after 3 quarters when they played South Central.
Brady Dinkle will kick off toward Kinzer Colgin and Tyson Struber. St. Francis with an 8-0 lead, and this is a line drive that is caught by the Eagles at their 25. Looked like it was Braden Collins that made the catch and then made his way out to the 33. So Canton Galva with its best starting field position of the game with 6:59 to go first quarter, trailing 8-0.
Yeah, they've started at the 8 and the 8. Now we're going to see a little more the Eagle offense that we're accustomed to. They can kind of do the things they normally do.
Braden Collins and Landon Everett out of the gun. Collins off the right hip of Landon Everett. First down and 10 for the Eagles at their 33. Everett will take the snap, will fake the run. Everett now keeps, and he is taken down behind the line of scrimmage. He is taken down by Shadron Blanca, who just scored the touchdown. That'll be a loss of 1, second down, coming up for Canton Galva and 11.
Yeah, and Everett looked a little tentative there, looking for the hole. Right now, Canton Galva minus 18 yards rushing because they've had a couple big losses. Everett was sacked for a 10-yard loss, and then, of course, the fumble, Collins fumbling the ball. And
And Canton Galva had too many men on the field. They had 9 men on the field in 8-man football.
That's too
so
many.
They get called for the illegal substitution, which will make this second down and 16, first penalty of the game.
Yeah, so far not a good start for CG, but very early.
So this will make it second down and 16 for the Eagles from their own 27-yard line. Just underway, but St. Francis with an 8-0 lead, capitalizing on the Canton Galva turnover. Offset pistol look for Landon Everett. Snap comes back to him, hands off to Braden Collins. Collins runs to the near side and is tripped up again. Adam Crine, the defensive end, is able to blow through and bring down the runner. And again, maybe a loss of half a yard. Third down and a long way for this Eagle offense.
Canton Galva right now with 21 yards of offense, but all that is through, most of that positive yardage is through the air. They have negative. Remember, the first play of the game, Struber caught a pass for 19 yards. Time to get him involved in a jet sweep or something like that.
Third down and 17 for Canton Galva from its 26-yard line. Snap to Everett, rolls left, tries to dump one off short and overthrows Kinzer Colgin on the quick out route. They were trying to find him and create a little space over on the St. Francis boundary, and Canton Galva will be forced to punt here with 5:47 to go in the opening frame.
Yeah, right now it's first down that's kind of setting the Eagles back. They're not getting anything on first down and kind of forcing them into situations they don't want to be in.
So Braden Collins will punt. Brady Dinkle back to receive this punt. Currently he's on his 35 and will back up to his 30. Snap comes back to Collins, and another lefty hits a great punt toward Brady Dinkle, lets it bounce in front of him, flutters up in the wind, and will be down by the Eagles at the St. Francis 33. So St. Francis with not quite as good a field position as they had a moment ago after the turnover, taking over at the Canton Galva 7, but St. Francis gets it at its own 33 here with 5:39 left to go first quarter.
Time for the CG defense to come up with a big stop here.
Canton Galva's defense, Mason Reedy, Connor Kane, Nick Pearson up front, Braden Collins, Brandon Huff in the linebacking core, Kinzer Colgin, Landon Everett, and Tyson Struber. Those are the 3 in the secondary. Snap comes back to Brady Dinkle for St. Francis, who tucks and runs to the outside. This will be a gain of 5 as he makes his way up to the 38-yard line, 37-yard line, and a 2nd and 5 coming up for St. Francis.
And that time, Dinkle was a little deeper on the snap, more of a shotgun. In this single wing, he's generally about 2 or 3 yards behind. He was about 5 yards back that time.
Jesse Baxter, Colton Neitzel, Tyson Poling, and Jace Snyder, the 4 up front for the St. Francis team. They'll now go to a shotgun look with 3 receivers. Pitch play here to the near side. Pitch to Shadron Blanca. Tries to turn up the field. Makes his way to the secondary. Blanca crosses midfield to the 30. Blanca then stopped and upended at the 27. And made their way all the way down into the secondary as Kinzer Colgin was pursuing. Another nice run by Shadron Blanca. Cross midfield here on the near side. And then ended up being tackled all the way on the far side of the field. So the second first down of the game for the St. Francis unit. First down and 10 into Canton Galva territory at the 28-yard line. 5:10 left to go first quarter. St. Francis with an 8-0 lead. Shadron Blanca ran in from 7 yards after a fumble by Canton Galva inside at 7. First and 10. Brady Dinkle keeps on the shotgun look. Dinkle runs to the near side, has the corner. Dinkle inside the 20, and then bumped out of bounds at the 17. Pursued here to the near sideline by Tyson Struber, and a run of 12 for Brady Dinkle, and a first down and 10, fresh set of downs, knocking on the door of that 10-yard line.
Yeah, and I just wonder if this spread is kind of bothering Canton Galva a little bit. They're used to that compact single wing, and they have opened this thing up a little bit. You got to pull out all stops in the state championship game.
First down and 10 for St. Francis at the Canton Galva 17. Back to the single wing. And the snap comes back to Dinkle. Hesitates behind the line of scrimmage. Makes his way through and somehow squirms through the defense for a gain of 6. He was waiting and waiting and waiting. If you remember, Colin Klein for the Kansas State Wildcats just hovering behind the line of scrimmage. Finally inched his way through down to the 12. They'll call it a gain of 5.
Yeah, and St. Francis finding some cracks in this Canton Galva defense that has been so staunch all year.
They have only given up 5 points per game this season, already given up 8 here in this first quarter. Second and 5. Dinkle takes a snap, and he's taken down behind the line of scrimmage. There to hit him first for this Canton Galva team. It looked like it was Braden Collins to bust his way through, and then eventually taken down. We'll see if they gave him 1 yard. No, just back to the line of scrimmage. 3rd and 5 at the 12, and certainly 4-down territory.
Yeah, in 8-man, you don't really see field goals per se. Teams just basically go for it.
St. Francis, 3rd down and 5 from the Canton Galva 12 as the Indians will run in the play. A ton of St. Francis fans have made the trip down here to Newton. They are on the far side of the field in the bleachers here at Fisher Field. 3rd and 5. Back to the single wing with 4 backs. They'll go on the end around, running here to the near side, trying to get the corner and finding his way into the end zone as a St. Francis touchdown on the end around. Snap came back to Brady Dinkle, ran to the outside, and they handed off back to Jace Snyder coming back to the near side as they score from 12 yards out to take a 14-0 lead. 3:36 to go, first quarter.
Yeah, terrific play design that time, what they call the old scissors play. And here we go on the 2-point conversion.
2-point conversion run up the middle for St. Francis is no good. So St. Francis with a 14-0 lead over Canton Galva here with 3:36 left to go, first quarter. We'll step aside and be back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Canton Galva State Championship Football on 96.7 FM KBBE. This opening quarter, and Steve, if my memory serves me right, this is Canton Galva's largest deficit of the season.
I believe you're right. I think 6 points has been their biggest deficit all year, and they got to get something going on the ground because they can't throw the ball if they're not able to run the ball.
After the second St. Francis touchdown of the opening quarter, Brady Dinkle will kick off back toward Kinzer Colgan, and it bounces over his head into the end zone, and a big break there for Canton Galva. Or if not, they would have had to try and dive on the football back near the goal line, but they'll bring the football out to the 15. First down and 10 for Canton Galva, 3:36 to go, first quarter.
Yeah, special teams so far have been an advantage for St. Francis, and now we have that no back look again, so I got a feeling Everett's going to be throwing the football.
Brandon Huff and Kinzer Colgan receivers near side. Tyson Struber out to the top side. Tight end in the formation to block is Tyler Rummel. Landon Everett, the senior quarterback, out of an empty gun. First down and 10 from the 15. Colgan comes in motion on the jet sweep. They give it to him. The ball is down on the field, and St. Francis has got it. They gave it to Kinzer Colgan running on the jet sweep, and it wasn't a pitch forward like you see sometimes. It was a handoff that did not go well. It's a loss of 1, and St. Francis with its second turnover of the game.
Yeah, this is just really kind of stunning that the Eagles so far are having so many problems in execution, and now St. Francis has a chance to really blow a hole open in this game. But remember, in the 8-man game, things can change pretty quickly.
Brady Dinkle out of the gun here in the single wing. Snap to Dinkle, runs to the outside. Brady Dinkle tries to get around and makes his way to the sideline inside the 10 and taken out of bounds at the 8 after St. Francis took over at the Eagle 14. So they'll spot the football on the 8, second down. This is a nightmare start for Canton Galva this afternoon. We're still this morning here at 11:20. 3:27 to go first quarter. St. Francis with a 14-0 lead, facing a 2nd and 4 from the 8. Brady Dinkle out of the gun. Tries to run up the middle. Now runs to the near side. Has a ton of room. Cuts it back and scores. Touchdown St. Francis with 3:21 to go in the first quarter as Brady Dinkle scores for his first touchdown of the game, his 41st of the season, and this time he scores from 8 yards out.
Too easy. Just a really nice job of blocking up front. And that's 2 touchdowns in about 15 seconds.
Snap comes back to Crine for the 2-point conversion. Crine tries to get the corner for the 2-point conversion and does as he hits the pylon. St. Francis with a 22-0 lead. 3:21 left to go first quarter.
And I think Eagle Nation, just like you and I, are a little shocked. I mean, we just did not see this coming. But again, Canton Galva has made some miscues, and St. Francis has taken advantage of every mistake.
Well, and Steve, like you said, the 8-man game can change very quickly, especially when you have the playmakers that Canton Galva has. And the other thing here, too, is that Canton Galva has 2 turnovers and St. Francis has 2 immediate touchdowns with the bad field position. So this can change quickly. Eagles, though, need to get something going here on the offensive end.
Yeah, they really do. We haven't seen any jet sweep action with Struber yet or anything like that. I just think they need a big play. They need a spark, something to ignite them.
Brady Dinkle will kick off again for St. Francis. This is his 4th kickoff here of the first quarter. The most points that Canton Galva had given up in a game this season was 23 against Little River back in week 1, and we knew how good that Little River team was. And they've already given up 22 here today.
And 2 turnovers already for Canton Galva.
So St. Francis, with this wind really picking up outside. Remember, we're supposed to have wind gusts in this area today of up to 55 miles per hour. But St. Francis with a monster lead here to start, 22-0. 3:21 to go first quarter. Brady Dinkle will kick off again. Toe pokes one, this one making its way toward the boundary, but stays in. It's grabbed by Kinzer Coldren, and he is blown up back at the 12-yard line. Great pursuit by St. Francis. Brings down Canton Galva. They'll spot him at the 11. And again, bad starting field position for the Eagles.
Well, they have started at the 8, 8, and 11, other than the one they had on about the 33, but that really makes it tough. I just think Canton Galva's just got to line up, start playing some smash mouth football.
First down and 10 for the Eagles at their own 11. Braden Collins off the right hip of Landon Everett out of the gun. And they'll go with a direct snap to Collins. Collins runs up the middle. Collins shakes and bakes at the 20. Braden Collins at the 30 and makes his way out toward midfield at the 37. There's a spark plug. 25 yards on the run by Braden Collins. And that gets the Eagle fans here on the near side fired up.
Yeah, really good hard run that time by Collins all the way up to the 37-yard line.
To the 37, first down and 10, Canton Galva. Same play, direct snap to Collins. Collins running up the middle. Collins into St. Francis territory and makes his way down to the 32. Back-to-back first down runs by Braden Collins. And for the first time in the game, Canton Galva into St. Francis territory.
Well, like we said, in the 8-man game, things can change very quickly.
And something is down over on the far side.
I think something's wrong with the sticks.
The chain gang.
Chain gang got wrapped up. Canton Galva exploding here. I think they've just decided, they're just saying enough's enough. It's time to just start putting the pedal to the metal.
So once they get these chains fixed over on the far side of the field on St. Francis's bench.
And now Struber's in the backfield with Everett. So
Tyson Struber on the season rushing, has had a good year. 223 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Primarily used, of course, as a wide receiver where he's been so dangerous, just shy of 600 yards.
But he's very, very fast, and you want to get the ball in his hands.
And not just fast, but 6'2", long strides.
Right. He is a playmaker, so I don't know if they've broken the chains or what. And this is a shame for Canton Galva because they were really starting to find an offensive rhythm. So here we go. I think they got the chains figured out.
First down and 10 for the Eagles in St. Francis territory at the 32. Tyson Struber and Landon Everett in the shotgun. Going from left to right, still into a win. 3 minutes left to go first quarter, trailing 22-0. Landon Everett gets the audible play call from the near sideline, 1st and 10. Snap to Everett, head off Struber. Struber trying to bounce to the outside. Struber stays on his feet until being taken down at the line of scrimmage. Kobe Tice, the St. Francis corner, makes a stop. No gain, 2nd and 10.
Nice job of St. Francis stringing that play out. They don't want Struber to get the corner.
Braden Collins comes back into the game at running back. Kinzer Colgin comes out. Tyson Struber, the receiver near side. 2nd and 10 at the St. Francis Indian 32. Pistol look. Collins behind Everett. Snap comes back to Everett. Hand off Braden Collins. Collins up the middle and rumbles down inside the 30 and makes his way down to the 27-yard line. That's a run of 5 for Braden Collins, and they'll call it 3rd down and 5. 4-down territory for the Eagles here at the St. Francis 27.
Yeah, they're finding their rhythm now. That's 32 yards on 6 carries for Braden Collins.
Canton Galva so far today 0 for 3 on its 3rd down conversions. Needs a big one here. 3rd and 5 from the St. Francis 27. The Indians with 7 in the box. Everett, snap to Collins. Collins is hit in the backfield and taken down at the line of scrimmage. Adam Crine at defensive end was there to hit him first, maybe a half a yard, as they'll spot the football in between the 27 and the 26, and it's go time, 4th down and 4.5.
And if Landon Everett were healthy, I think you'd be seeing him keeping the ball more, but he has only tried to run actually on a play once, and another time he got sacked. This is a big play for Canton Galva. They need some momentum.
4th down and 5 from the 27. They go on a hard count. Braden Collins, the back behind Landon Everett. Down to 8 seconds on the play clock. Tyson Struber spread out wide to the top. 4th and 5, Everett to pass. Once one for Struber, and it's in and out of his hands at the 1st down marker. St. Francis comes up with a stand as they had Tyson Struber on the far side. This one hits the turf incomplete, and St. Francis comes up with a stop and will take over at its own 27.
Yeah, he was definitely open. Just a little misfire there.
So after all of that positive momentum working out toward midfield, they pick up 35 yards on the drive. A couple nice runs by Braden Collins. St. Francis here with 1:06 to go first quarter takes over at its 27. Brady Dinkle takes the snap and runs to the outside. Brady Dinkle down the far sideline. Dinkle knocked out of bounds in Canton Galva territory as he crosses the 40, and they'll say he stepped out of bounds at the 33. So a big-time run. He's able to pick up 20 yards on the run down to the Canton Galva 32. With 59 seconds left to go here in this opening quarter. And St. Francis with a chance to take a 4-touchdown lead. Single wing for St. Francis. Snapped, it goes to Shadron Blanca and runs up the middle. And will pick up 3 inside the 30 down to the 29. 2nd down and 7 for this St. Francis team, who has to run 1 or 2 more plays before the end of the first quarter, but holds a 22-0 lead.
96 yards on the ground. That's almost a 400-yard pace for St. Francis. They just line up and dare you. They're not going to throw the ball. I'll be surprised if they even put the ball in the air. Now you got Dinkle out wide.
Dinkle out wide. Shadron Blanca takes the direct snap. Blanca runs up the middle, stuffed at first, and then he's upended by Kinzer Colgin at the line of scrimmage. They'll give him forward progress inside the 30 and maybe a half a yard to the 28. And that will likely be the final play of this first quarter. St. Francis looking at a 3rd down and 6 to start the second quarter, but a terrific start for the St. Francis team as they lead Canton Galva 22-0 at the end of the first 12 minutes.
Canton Galva kind of thought all they had to do was pack the line of scrimmage. Now we got a double wing.
It's a flex bone double wing look. Snap comes back to Brady Dinkle. Dinkle runs up the middle, and he is short of the 1st down marker by 3 yards. Down to the 25, has to make it to the 22. 4th down and 3, and a monster play in this game coming up.
Yeah, because if Canton Galva doesn't get a stop here, and St. Francis goes on to score on this drive, as explosive as Canton Galva normally is, for a touchdown lead would be insurmountable.
They've got to get to the 22. They're at the 25. Eagles trying to come up with another stop. Snap comes back Dinkle. Dinkle runs to the near side and has the 1st down inside the 20. He needed 3, picks up 5, and they'll actually give him forward progress of 6 to the 19. 1st and 10, St. Francis.
Well, Dinkle is just a big, raw-boned kid. Stretches that ball forward. He's tall. I mean, have to look on my roster, but he's got to be about 6'2".
Well, St. Francis doesn't have any heights on their roster,
okay.
so that will make it a little tough.
That's right.
First down and 10 from the 19 for St. Francis. Dinkle runs to the outside, and a flag will blow this play dead.
I don't think they were set. That's that's a break for Canton Galva.
That's a false starter. Will make it first down and 15. Yeah, no heights on the roster, but if I were guessing, I would say Brady Dinkle is probably around 6'3".
Yeah.
I mentioned in our open that he has seen a lot of interest from Kansas State up in Manhattan.
Long strider, some would call him.
I think he would be a big-time – I think Bill Snyder would be a big-time fan of him if he were still around still coaching.
I have a feeling they would look at him as like a safety. He's got great safety size. Obviously, probably not at quarterback, but as a safety.
First and 15 for St. Francis from the 24. Dinkle keeps it up the middle on a little counter and makes his way back down, and the ball came out. Canton Galva's got it, but they will blow the play dead. Tyson Struber had picked up the fumble and was going to take it to the house, but they'll call it just a run of 5, and that Dinkle's knee was down. And that would have been a game-changing play in this one as well. Yeah. And now they're going to say that it was a fumble. They're going to say that it was a fumble, and it's Canton Galva football, but Steve, it's a bad break for Canton Galva because it would have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
They blew the play dead just like they've been doing in the NFL this year, and Tyson Struber was going to take it to the house, but instead they blow the play dead, give Canton Galva the football, though, at its own 19. Landon Everett out of the gun. Handoff to Braden Collins, who can't get back to the line of scrimmage. Here with 10:22 to go in the second quarter.
Actually, I think that was a direct snap, maybe, but no gain on the play.
Second down and 10 for Canton Galva after the fumble. The Eagles now with a little wind at their back, and we'll see if that means they will try a deep pass for Tyson Struber. 2 minutes gone, second quarter, 22-0. St. Francis leads Canton Galva.
Yeah, Canton Galva needs a score to just have, feel like they're still in this game.
Everett fakes the snap to Collins. Now throws a bomb for Struber, but too much air under this one. And this one will land incomplete, covered on the far side by Brady Dinkle. Third down and 10.
Everett 3 of 8 right now through the air for 29 yards. They're trying to get the ball to Struber. He's their big play guy, but again, the wind just kind of took that pass and sailed it.
9:46 to go, third quarter. Third down and 10 for this Canton Galva team. Going from right to left here in the 8-man Division I state championship game, trailing by 22. Landon Everett out of the pistol. Fakes the snap, or fakes the handoff, keeps it himself up the middle. Everett will cross the 25 to the 26 and will be 3 yards shy of the first down. So 4th and 3 for this Canton Galva offense. Shadron Blanca on the tackle for St. Francis, a guy who has been all over the field in this game, and lurking there in the middle of that defense has been Colton Neitzel, who they don't have his height listed either, but he's 225 pounds, a junior, and a full beard.
Canton Galva looks like they're going to go for it.
4th and 3.
Now they have a timeout. They're going to think about it.
And they will take a timeout here with 9:11 left to go in this second quarter. Trailing 22-0. And Steve, you mentioned it, that things can change quickly in an 8-man game, but at the same time, you've got to keep yourself in this game too. You can't afford to give up a touchdown here, but at the same time, the way you keep yourself in this game today might be trying to score.
Yeah, exactly. You and I have not seen an 8-man game this year, but it is a very explosive type of game, and it just seems like the teams with the really great athletes can put points on the board in a hurry. I think the real key is they've done a great job of containing Landon Everett so far. He just really, he hasn't hardly carried the ball, and then throwing the ball, the wind is really making it difficult to throw the football.
A great crowd and a beautiful day for football here in Newton at Fisher Field. The home sideline here in the stands, it is completely packed. A ton of Canton Galva people, a ton of McPherson people have made the trip down as well. The Eagles facing a 4th down and 3, and a huge play in this game with Landon Everett in the gun and 3 eligible receivers to the top side. 4th and 3. Snap comes back to Everett, rolls to his right. Everett trying to find some space, throws one back across the middle, and it's intercepted by St. Francis.
Really good. He has a fumble recovery and a pick.
Snap comes back to Dinkle. 1st and 10 for St. Francis at its own 37. And Dinkle is stopped right at midfield, or excuse me, at the 38. And a gain of 2. And Steve, that is just Landon Everett's 2nd interception of the season. He came into this game with 27 passing touchdowns and just 1 interception, and that interception came last week against Madison.
Yeah, we talked about turnovers, how this team has hardly turned the ball over the entire season. They have 3 turnovers today.
2nd down and 8 for St. Francis at midfield at the 40. 8:30 left to go, 2nd quarter. Indians lead by 22. Single wing look, snap to Brady Dinkle. They fake the handoff near side. Dinkle keeps it. Dinkle runs up the middle and will pick up 3 to about the 37. And that will make this a 3rd down and 5 for St. Francis.
And that was all Dinkle. He made a really nifty play fake there. They hit him at the line of scrimmage, but again, he's about 6'3", and he's got that forward lean that he picks up a few extra yards. Big series here for Canton Galva. They need to get a stop. They've got to get on the board before halftime.
8 minutes to go in the 2nd quarter. St. Francis 22, Canton Galva 0 here in the 8-man Division I state championship game from Newton.
128 yards so far for St. Francis.
Down to 7 to snap it, down to 5. 3rd down and 5 for St. Francis at the 37 of Canton Galva. Run near side, Brady Dinkle pursued and stopped in the backfield. Dinkle now officially driven down into the dirt, 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage, but a flag is down on the play and thrown back right into the middle of the offensive line and will be a hold on St. Francis. So it's either 4th down and 6, or you take the penalty and make it 3rd down and long.
I think you make it 3rd and long because they just do not throw the football, and I think they're going to take this.
The flag is down at the 39.
They're going to decline the flag.
So they will decline the penalty and take a 4th down and 6 instead.
Yeah, they lost a yard on the play. I don't know. I might have taken it just because they just are not comfortable throwing the football.
Well, either way, maybe you're banking on St. Francis wanting to punt the football here.
Well, they're not going to punt it because they right now they have a lot of confidence in how their defense is playing. So Nick Fawcett talking to, that is not Dinkle, though. That is number 2. That is
Kobe Tice.
Kobe Tice, who might be their, but he's not their punter either, I don't believe.
Well, he's running in the play.
Okay.
4th down and 6 for St. Francis from the 38. And a monster play coming up in this game. Dinkle to pass on 4th and 6. Throws one high up into the air. Jump ball and intercepted by Landon Everett back at the 15. Landon Everett high pointed the football. Comes away with the interception back at the 14-yard line. It's an interception thrown by Brady Dinkle. And really it would have been better as an incompletion. But a turnover forced by the Eagles for the 2nd straight drive.
Well, Everett was he's one of those positions, if he doesn't catch the ball, if he tries to knock it down, it might end up in the hands of the receiver. So CG's got a long way to go, though.
7:07 to go in the 2nd quarter, starting at their own 14. Everett hands off, and a ball came out on the handoff to Braden Collins, and Kobe Tyson. St. Francis have got it. The 4th Canton Galva turnover here of the first half, and St. Francis will start at the 17.
Wow, that's just really tough for Canton Galva. Very uncharacteristic of, turning the ball over. But, man, I don't know if it's the wind or the weather or what, but they are really having a hard time hanging on to the ball.
7:03 to go 2nd quarter, and Shadron Blanca runs up the middle and almost squirms through into the secondary. Give him 5 inside the 15 to the 12. So 2nd down, and they'll call it 6 now from the 13. St. Francis, with 6:40 to go here before half, can make this a 4-touchdown game.
Yeah, the Eagles, this is almost a must-stop situation. They give up another point here, they're in pretty big trouble.
Snap comes back to Blanca. Blanca runs up the middle and makes his way down to the 10. Maybe the nose of the football will be inside the 10. And a 3rd down and short coming up here for this Canton Galva defense. Can they come up with one more stop? 3rd down, and they'll call it 2. 3rd and 3.
Yeah, you got to think Dinkle will carry the ball here a couple times.
The nose of the football is inside the 10. And the end of the chains is just inside the 17.
They almost look like they're going to take a timeout. They're just going to run the... Man, I tell you, this is just... I'm sure Shelby Hoppus could never imagine his team would turn the ball over 4 times in the first half alone.
5:49 left to go, second quarter, and St. Francis takes a timeout. We'll take it with them. This timeout brought to you by the Linsport Community Hospital Urgent Care Clinic, now open 7 days a week. Fake the end around, now give it to the outside. Instead, they went right up the middle on the little misdirection, and they are short of the first down to make it 4th down and 1 inside the Canton Galva 10. 4th down and 1 from the 8. St. Francis leads 22-0 with 5:30 to go before the half, and the Eagles trying to come up with a huge stop here. 4th and 1 from the Eagle 8. St. Francis lines up. Single wing look. Direct snap comes back to Blanca. Blanca runs up the middle. He stops, but I think he's got enough for the forward progress. Blanca needed 1, and I think he got 1.5. The nose of the football is not quite to the 16, but it is enough for the first down.
Well, one thing it looks to me, as physical as Canton Galva is, St. Francis is just, they are a big bunch of dudes. They are really big. They are really strong.
5 minutes to go, second quarter. St. Francis with a 1st and goal from the 6. Going to the end zone to our right. And a 22-0 lead at this point. Brady Dinkle, Shadron Blanca out of the single wing. Snap to Dinkle. Dinkle hesitates at the line. Grabbed by Mason Reedy and then falls forward inside the 5, down to about the 2.
And again, one hit does not bring Dinkle down. He's 17 carries already for Dinkle, 83 yards.
Second and goal from the 2. 4:30 to go, second quarter, 22-0 St. Francis lead over Canton Galva. St. Francis letting some time wind down on the play clock.
I just think this game's being won at the line of scrimmage. They just, Canton Galva had a really good first defensive series. Since then, it just seems like St. Francis has imposed its physical will.
Snap comes back to Blanca. Blanca runs up the middle to the goal line and is in. Touchdown St. Francis from the 2-yard line here with 4:03 to go in the second quarter. St. Francis takes a 28-0 lead. Blanca with his second rushing touchdown of the game, and St. Francis will go for 2 to try and make it 30-0 with 4:03 to go before the half.
Well, it's going to be imperative that Canton Galva gets some points before the half, because remember, St. Francis will get the ball to start the second half.
That's right. 2-point conversion to the end zone to our right. Snap to Adam Crine. Crine trying to race to the outside and is able to cut in and score to make this a 30-0 St. Francis lead with 4:03 to go before the half. Well, a tough start for this Canton Galva team in the first half as we go back through how this game has gone, Steve. Both teams punted on their first drive, and then Canton Galva took over at its own 8 after a great punt by St. Francis, and the Eagles rolled the dice. They decided to fake, and the snap went through the hands of their punter, Braden Collins. It was then picked up by St. Francis at the Eagle 7. They scored on the next play. Canton Galva would then punt, fumble the football, which led to a touchdown. They would turn it over on downs in St. Francis territory. In the last 2 drives, an interception as well as a fumble. As St. Francis has capitalized on turnovers, they have scored every time off of turnovers and lead 30-0 with 4:03 to go second quarter.
Yeah, and like I said, I think Canton Galva really needs to get on the board here for the half and then come out and get a stop, because they are 4 scores down right now. Those 2-point conversions have also really helped St. Francis.
Brady Dinkle will kick off back toward Kinzer Colgin and Tyson Struber, as Dinkle hits another low squibber that is dropped at the 25-yard line but picked up by the Eagles. As that one was grabbed right down the middle by Brandon Huff, and Canton Galva will start at the 26.
I don't know if Dinkle has put some crazy spin, but the Eagles, I believe, they have basically kicked around about every kickoff so far, not really fielded one very clean.
Well, Steve, if you're a Canton Galva fan, you've got to think you need some points here before the half. You've got to score.
You have to.
Landon Everett and Braden Collins in the backfield. 1st and 10 from their own 26. Give to Collins instead. He pulls it out of the belly. Landon Everett keeps and is taken down for a loss of 4. Landon Everett faked up the middle to Collins, and that was actually the open play that time as Collins began to run through the defense. They'll call it a loss of 3 back to the 23. So 2nd down, and they'll call it 12 from the 23. So it should be 2nd and 13 from their own 23. 3:30 left to go, second quarter. 30-0 St. Francis.
Yeah, Collins had a big room. He was galloping up the middle. I thought he had the ball, and I tell you, it's up front. This St. Francis team, as physical as Canton is, they're winning the battle up front.
Everett to pass on 2nd and 13, up for grabs and intercepted by St. Francis. This one was tipped by Kobe Tice and then intercepted by Colton Neitzel at the Canton Galva 34. That one was up for grabs on the wheel route, trying to find Tyson Struber, but St. Francis forces the 2nd thrown interception by Canton Galva today, just the 3rd of the season.
5 turnovers now for Canton Galva, and this is like a living nightmare right now for the Eagles. They know they're a better football team than what they're showing, but points off turnovers are huge.
1st and 10, Brady Dinkle with the run to the outside and a ton of space. Brady Dinkle down the far sideline, 10, and is knocked out of bounds inside the 10, at the 5, and at the 4 on a run there for Brady Dinkle, picking up 30 yards. So all the way down to the 4. It'll be 1st and goal, St. Francis with 3:01 to go before the half, leading 30-0.
Well, you got to think from an emotional standpoint, Canton Galva has just had their heart broken with all these turnovers, and now it's starting to show up on the defensive end. That was an easy run that time.
Snap to Shadron Blanca. Blanca up the middle and into the end zone. Touchdown St. Francis with 2:57 to go in the second quarter. Shadron Blanca with his 3rd rushing touchdown. This one comes from 4 yards out. St. Francis with a 36-0 lead. 2:57 to go in the second quarter.
Yeah, it's all about turnovers, and they are just converting on every single mistake Canton Galva is making.
5 turnovers on the Eagles in this game, as well as a turnover on downs. And a nightmare start, and at this point, a nightmare finish to this season. Snap comes back to Adam Krein, who is upended, and they're going to throw in a flag, and I didn't quite see what it was. The tackler there for Canton Galva, I thought, was Nick Pearson, who went low. But maybe they'll say something on the offense in terms of a hold. I didn't see anything defensively.
I didn't either.
Because the tackle was low.
There was no face mask.
There was no face mask on the runner. There could have been one somewhere else.
No good. After play, personal foul, targeting, fix the defense.
Okay, well, that's a weird play. They'll say that there was a targeting after the play.
Okay.
Is targeting an after the play penalty? I would think that if you hit somebody with your helmet, it was in the play, but I don't know.
I don't know,
I don't know, but either way, it's 36-0 St. Francis. So that means that St. Francis will kick off from a little bit closer. I don't think I quite understand the rule, but maybe we need Big B Brian Bankston up here to help us.
Well, the Pistol's an NFL insider. He knows all those rules.
I'll be honest, I've never seen a targeting called after the play.
Yeah, so that's a 15-yarder, by the way, on Canton Galva. So that will let him kick off on the 35-yard line.
Well, Steve, that was a big stop there on the 2-point conversion, because if St. Francis would have scored, it would have made it 38-0, and a chance of the 45-point rule by the half would have come into play.
Man.
Now it will take 2 scores.
You just mentioned the 45-point rule. That didn't even cross my mind. I was not even thinking about that. Canton Galva's got to hang on to the ball here and get a score before halftime.
Brady Dinkle will kick off from the Canton Galva 35. We'll see if they try an onside kick. Dinkle instead just pokes it into the end zone, and Canton Galva will take over at its own 15. So here really, Steve, is the game for this Canton Galva team. If they want to find a way to stay in it, they've got to score here before the half.
Yeah, because St. Francis gets the ball to start the second half, and they don't need much to get to that 45. They're only 9 points away right now.
This is the 9th possession of this game already for Canton Galva. And the Eagles have not run a ton of plays. Most they've had in one drive is 6. Snap to Everett, 1st and 10 from the 15. Everett runs down the near sideline with some room. Everett cuts it up at the 30 and is tripped up at about the 34. Nice run by Landon Everett as he was able to put together the longest play from scrimmage for this Canton Galva team today of 19 yards, 1st and 10.
Yeah, they really need to get a score here. They got 2:47, plenty of time.
Snap to Everett. Runs to the outside on 1st and 10. Everett trying to get to the boundary and is bumped out of bounds on the St. Francis sideline after a gain of 3. Gain of 4 as they move it up to the 38. So it'll be 2nd down and 6 for Canton Galva. Trailing 36-0 here in the second quarter with 2:40 to go before half. And like Steve mentioned, St. Francis gets the ball to start the second half.
81 yards of offense for Canton Galva so far.
Braden Collins moves to the right hip of Landon Everett out of the gun. They try the direct snap to Collins, and it's fumbled back at the 35. Colton Neitzel had the interception a moment ago, was ready to jump on it, and after a run of 4, it's a loss of 3. 3rd down and 9 for the Eagles at their 35.
Well, we talk about execution. That's a couple times now that Collins has tried to run before he had the ball secure on that direct snap.
3rd and 9 from their own 35, 2:15 to go in the second quarter. Trailing 36-0, the Eagles have got to get a first down here and keep this drive alive. Landon Everett out of the gun. Collins to his right. Everett to pass. Looking down the near sideline. Airs it out for Tyson Struber, who's behind the defense and makes the catch inside the 10. Landon Everett with his favorite target, Tyson Struber, out of bounds at the 4. As they go 41 yards, Tyson Struber with a big-time reception, and they'll mark it at the 5. 1st and goal, Canton Galva. There's that play they needed from the 5-yard line of St. Francis. Landon Everett will keep it up the middle. Everett now bounces to the near side and can't quite get to the pylon. This will be a run of 3 or 4. We'll see if they call him out at the 2 or the 1. 2nd down for the Eagles end goal. Knocking on the door of the end zone for the first time today.
I think they're going to call it the 2.
So they will spot him out at the 2. 2nd down and goal from the 2. Braden Collins into the game at running back. Canton Galva trying to get on the board for the first time, trailing 36-0. Landon Everett out of the pistol, Collins behind him. 5 blockers in front. Handoff, Collins gets hammered at the goal line with a monster stop by Colton Neitzel. Just a gain of 1. 3rd and goal from the 1.
And Colton Neitzel, we've mentioned, that guy is an absolute man.
And a timeout was taken. I didn't quite see which side it will go against.
Probably St. Francis.
St. Francis takes the timeout. 3rd and goal from the 1 with 1:39 to go before the half. Well, we knew at some point in this game, Steve, that Landon Everett would try a deep pass for Tyson Struber. They attempted one earlier, and that one was overthrown. This one was right on the money, and Tyson Struber made a terrific grab to set them up. 1st and goal at the 5. Now just trying to punch in.
Really need to score here again, and then you got to hold St. Francis. It's gonna have to start with the defense though in the second half because they've got to get stopped. It's the only way that they get back in the game, and they basically gifted St. Francis these 36 points because all their points have come after a turnover.
If you're just now joining us here, it's the 8-man Division I state championship game between Canton Galva and St. Francis. St. Francis with a 36-0 lead over the undefeated Canton Galva Eagles, who have 5 turnovers here in this first half. Canton Galva will go 4 wide with 3 linemen. Landon Everett out of the gun. Everett runs up the middle, lowers his shoulder, and is into the end zone. Touchdown, Canton Galva. 1:39 left to go before the half, and the Eagles finally find the end zone. Landon Everett with his 23rd rushing touchdown of the season makes this a 36-6 game for the moment.
Yeah, and they have got to convert these 2-pointers.
So they'll try to go for 2 here to make this a 28-point game, currently a 30-point game. Everett Hands off inside for Tyson Struber after running forward. Struber's in for the two-point conversion, and Canton Galva back to within 28. 36 St. Francis and 8 for the Canton Galva Eagles. That was a great drive as Canton Galva goes 65 yards for its first touchdown of the game, and they score here to make this a 4-touchdown game, 4-touchdown lead for St. Francis. Steve Sell is pondering over to my right.
Well, it's the 8-man game for me to stat is a little unusual, so I'm just double-checking some numbers here.
Well, the main numbers to pay attention to on that scoreboard, 36-8 St. Francis with 1:39 to go before the half. Steve, if you were thinking ahead, would you attempt an onside kick here if you're Canton Galva to try and get the football back and steal a possession, or are you just going to try and let this go to the half and try and pin them deep?
I think you just let this go to the half and try to regroup. And Canton Galva's going to have to force some turnovers in the second half to get back in this game, because right now this offense for St. Francis, they're the more physical team. And I know it's hard for Canton Galva to believe that, considering how he's just punished people all year. But man, they have just got some dudes. I mean, they have just got some physical dudes.
Brandon Huff will kick off and hits this one relatively short. It bounces at the 15 and deadens at the 10. Grabbed by Dinkle. Dinkle runs up the middle. Dinkle brings the ball out to the 17-yard line. So St. Francis will take over with 1:36 left to go in the first half, starting at its own 17.
A lot of possessions in the 8-man game.
You're telling me.
I tell you, it's really interesting how this game just flips.
First and 10 for St. Francis. They'll actually spot the football at the 18 with 1:36 to go before the half. And remember, St. Francis gets the ball to start the second half. Brady Dinkle breaks out of a couple of arm tackles, runs up the middle out of the single wing, and picks up 5. Brady Dinkle, a terrific athlete for the St. Francis team, plays at their number 1 running back position in the single wing. They don't have a traditional quarterback, but Brady Dinkle would be the closest resemblance to a quarterback. 2nd and 5 from the 22. Dinkle runs near side, being pursued. Ball pops out. The ball pops out at the 25.
Got it.
And Canton Galva's got it. The Eagles force the turnover. They fall on the fumble, and there to jump on it was Brandon Huff. They ripped it out of the arms of Brady Dinkle, and here is Canton Galva's chance with 1:03 to go before the half.
They have the ball at the 26-yard line. They can cover that in no problem.
For the first time today, they will start in St. Francis territory. 1:03 to go, second quarter, trailing 36-8. Landon Everett out of the gun. 2 receivers near side in Kinzer Colgan and Brandon Huff. One to the top side in Tyson Struber. 1st and 10 from the 26. Everett airing it out to the end zone for Struber, who's behind the defense and scores! Touchdown, Canton Galva! They have jumped back into this game with back-to-back touchdowns. Landon Everett over the top to Tyson Struber, his 14th touchdown reception of the season. Everett with his 28th passing touchdown, and the Eagles are right back in it, 36-14.
Well, we said the defense has to get stops and get turnovers, and what a beautiful pass by Everett. I mean, he hit Struber perfectly in stride. Struber may be the best all-around athlete on the field.
A huge 2-point conversion to make it a 20-point game. 58 seconds to go before the half. Offset pistol look. They'll fake the handoff to Collins. Everett dumps one to the back of the end zone, overthrows Kinzer Colgan. So the 2-point conversion is no good. But just like that, Canton Galva with a touchdown. They force a turnover on the fumble and then score on the very next play. 26 yards from Landon Everett to Tyson Struber.
14 points in, 41 seconds for the Eagles. That gives them a little momentum. Now I think if you're St. Francis, you just want to maybe take a knee and get to halftime. You know you're going to get the ball to start the second half. But now Canton Galva has got a little bit of life to him.
36-14, St. Francis with the lead. And that was a beautiful pass from Landon Everett to Tyson Struber. And I think I said it in the middle of talking that Struber got behind the defense. With the way that ball came in, that it was going to be 6.
Oh, he just glides. I mean, Struber just glides. And he's got, he's got 100 yards in receiving here in the first half.
36-14. Canton Galva now trails by 22 with 58 seconds to go before the half. And this place here at Fisher Field feels a little different than it did about a minute ago.
Oh, it was a morgue about 2 minutes ago.
Brandon Huff will kick off for Canton Galva. And like we said in the 8-man game, it's never over.
That's right.
You never know what could happen. Brandon Huff with a kickoff here, and they will try the onside kick. Ball bouncing around, and it's grabbed by St. Francis at the 29. Thought that there was a chance they would attempt something like that just because they've got the momentum and trying to capitalize and potentially go into the locker room. They'll actually spot the football at the 31. So St. Francis from its own 31 with 56 seconds to go in the first half.
And remember, this Canton Galva team against South Central down 16-10 after 3 quarters scored 32 points in the fourth quarter. So they can get them in a hurry.
14 straight points for the Eagles. 1st and 10, St. Francis. Shadron Blanca runs up the middle, and he gets hit hard and hammered down. There to hit him was Connor Kane with a big-time TFL, loss of 1, back to the 40, and Canton Galva takes a timeout. And our official has turned on his crowd mic and has ruptured the ears of everybody here with a monster wind today in Newton. Winds could gust as high as 55 miles per hour today, currently at about 30. So a loss of 1 and a 2nd down and 11 coming up for St. Francis with 49 seconds to go before the half.
And you think, St. Francis has 36 points on the board. You think, man, they probably have 300 yards of offense. Well, the turnovers have helped. They've only had 174 yards unofficially here in the first half.
Canton Galva does have one more timeout left. But St. Francis, I think, will be very content with going to half.
Well, Canton Galva's going to be trying to rip away at the ball, force a turnover.
2nd and 11, St. Francis runs up the middle with Brady Dinkle. Dinkle will stay high and then finally hits the ground. We'll see if Canton Galva wants to use its final timeout here with 40 seconds left in the half. 3rd down, and it will be 7 from the 44. St. Francis does have to run another play because there is 4 seconds between the game clock and the play clock. Well, Canton Galva's got to feel a whole lot better than they did about 3 minutes ago when they were trailing 36-0, and we were thinking, oh, don't turn it over another time and give them a chance to lead at the half and win it before the half. But this is a team that has scored back-to-back touchdowns to end this half. Now they come up with a stop of Brady Dinkle, who will be down at the 35, and Canton Galva will use that final timeout with 5 seconds to go in the second quarter. 4th down on the way. 4th down and 6. So, Steve, if you're St. Francis, do you just try and punt this one down the field?
Well, I think you snap it back to Dinkle and let him run around. I think with 5 seconds to go, I think Dinkle can run around and kill 5 seconds.
But remember, they run out of the single wing.
But
then 5 seconds is a long time when you try and run away.
But they have been in that spread a few times where he drops back about 3 or 4 yards.
But 5 seconds is a long time to try and avoid. And if you get taken down for a loss, then you give Canton Galva another chance. 5 seconds to go in this second quarter. St. Francis scored the first 36 points of this game. They scored 22 in the first quarter and then followed that up with 2 touchdowns in the second quarter to lead 36-0, and that was with 2:57 left to go before the half. But the Eagles responded. A 1-yard rushing touchdown by Landon Everett made it 36-8 with 1:39 to go before the half. And then Tyson Struber caught the pass from Landon Everett just moments ago, 58 seconds to go before the half to make it 36-14. They'll pitch the ball back and want to try the halfback pass, and this ball's thrown into the dirt, and they will say incomplete with no time left on the clock. St. Francis wanted to run a little trickeration before the half, but Canton Galva scores the final 14 points of that first half, and the Eagles have some life here in Newton today after being down 36-0 at the halftime break of the 2019 8-man Division I state championship game. Canton Galva trails St. Francis 36-14, and Steve, I think this Canton Galva group looks inspired heading to the locker room. St. Francis, I think, is feeling like it missed out on a couple of opportunities at the end of this half.
Yeah, they do, and it's good to see Canton Galva still with a lot of fight in them. They're not going to give up.
Which is not something we anticipated. But who knows? This team is going to try and make its way all the way back.
Well, that would be, I don't know what the all-time comeback in a state championship game is, but they were down 36. And if they can get a stop and score and get a 2-pointer, they're down just 2 scores with a lot of ball game left.
Our second half kickoff is brought to you by the Community Foot Clinic, serving Central Kansas with comprehensive foot care since 1998. Right back to Brady Dinkle at his 5. Dinkle runs up the middle and is upended at the 21. In there to make the tackle for Canton Galva was Xavier Westbrook, freshman for this Eagle team. And St. Francis starts at its own 22. First drive of the second half, 11:54 to go in the third quarter.
Well, and you know, if you're St. Francis, you basically do the same thing every play. You run the ball. So that's what they're going to just try to do, try to pound them out right up the middle.
Shadron Blanca takes the direct snap, runs up the middle, and he is stopped there on the run by Braden Collins. Maybe a gain of 1 for Shadron Blanca, who scored 3 first-half touchdowns. Came into the game with 25 total touchdowns on the season. Second down and 9 for St. Francis.
And this is kind of how Canton Galva started the game. Defensively, they were really good start, but that's before we started to have the rain of turnovers.
5 Canton Galva turnovers on offense in that first half were the difference. Second and 9. Direct snap to Blanca again, trying to run to the outside of the top side. Blanca turns back up the field and will pass the 25 and make his way to they'll spot the football at the 27, making this 3rd down and 6. 3rd down and 5.
Well, if you're Canton Galva, you've got to get a stop here. So who's going to make the play? You got to have somebody make a big play.
3rd down and 5 for St. Francis from the 27. Just a minute gone here in the second half. Brady Dinkle out of the deep gun here in the single wing look. Dinkle runs to his left. Dinkle makes his way toward the far sideline and somehow stays on his feet and picks up the first down. It looked like he was about to be pushed out of bounds, but kept moving forward, made his way to the 35. Fresh set of downs for St. Francis.
And that's what you didn't need if you're Canton Galva. You needed a stop there.
First down and 10 for St. Francis, 5 yards from midfield. Remember, in the 8-man game, just an 80-yard field, so the midfield stripe here at Fisher Field is the 40. Even though it says 50.
It is very confusing if you've been statting games.
And I think I've done okay.
Yeah, I've been kind of following your lead a little bit, and I think stats are pretty close.
First down and 10 for St. Francis. Shadron Blanca takes a direct snap, and again, he is held up for nothing. Makes his way back to the line of scrimmage. In there to hit him was Connor Kane. No gain. Second down and 10 for the Indians at their 35.
But what Canton Galva cannot do is allow them to burn 4 or 5 minutes of clock here on this first drive. They need quick scores.
Second and 10 from the 35, 10:20 to go third quarter. St. Francis 36, Canton Galva 14 here in the 8-man Division I state championship game. Single wing look again. 2 deep backs, 1 up back. Direct snap to Brady Dinkle. Dinkle runs and turns, and he is hit at the line of scrimmage as well. Nothing doing again for Brady Dinkle. In there to hit him, Brandon Huff, as well as Keaton Luttrell. They'll give him maybe a half a yard on the other side of the 35. 3rd down and long. 3rd down and 9.5.
Big play for the Canton Galva defense. Have got to get a stop here. Would they dare throw the football? They have only thrown it twice, and one of those was picked off. Watch that little scissors play maybe. They haven't used that scissors play in a while.
A little misdirection. 3rd down and a long 9. Single wing look for the St. Francis team, as it will be a direct snap to Shadron Blanca, who is hit and stuffed at the line of scrimmage. No gain. Stepping in to hit him, Mason Reedy. And at the bottom of the pile, Nick Pearson, no gain. 4th down and long, and will St. Francis punt here at 9:15 to go third quarter.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. They've only had 1 punt so far, and it went 38 yards. But they're punting into the wind.
And that's the only reason why I was thinking maybe they would attempt to go for it here. Their offense has been good. Their defense has been really good, and they can trust it. We'll see what they elect to do. Brady Dinkle is back deep, looking like he will punt for the St. Francis team. Tyson Struber back deep to receive, and Dinkle hits a low line drive that will make its way inside the 10, inside the 5, and will roll into the end zone. And a huge break there for Canton Galva as that one rolled all the way down inside the 10, kept on rolling, and St. Francis almost kept it out of the end zone, but instead Canton Galva takes over at its own 15.
45-yarder, a bullet that time.
Into the wind.
Into the wind.
So Canton Galva, here is its chance. A stop to begin the second half, and now they need to score. Trailing 36-14, 8:40 to go third quarter.
Got to think they're going to try to get the ball to Struber.
Struber comes in motion on the jet sweep. They give it to him. Struber to the outside. Tyson Struber cuts it back up and is upended over on the far side of the field for a gain of 2. Canton Galva on offense. Starting lineups brought to you by Art Shirt Gear for Sport at 211 North Main Street in downtown McPherson. Connor Kane, Nick Pearson, Jay Nightingale, and Keaton Luttrell up front. Receivers, Tyson Struber and Kinzer Colgin. Braden Collins, a running back. Brandon Huff and Tyler Rummel, a couple of tight ends for this Canton Galva team.
Again, they need a score quick. They need a big play, maybe a long bomb to Struber.
2nd and 8 from the 17. Landon Everett out of the gun. Takes a snap and looks left. Once one short for Tyson Struber. Had it and then was knocked out of his hands. Just a pass of 5 yards there from Landon Everett to Tyson Struber. A little low. And I think even if he makes the catch, really wouldn't have had much of a chance to turn. 3rd down and 8 for Canton Galva at its own 17.
Yeah, the problem about throwing it deep is the wind just sails that ball. You just got a perfect touch on it.
I don't have Canton Galva for a 3rd down conversion in this game. 3rd down and 8 for the Eagles. Braden Collins, the running back to the left of Landon Everett. 3rd and 8. St. Francis brings the house. Everett thought about passing. Instead tucks it down. Everett turns up the field and has got the 1st down. Landon Everett ran down the near hashes. He looked like he wanted to pass it first, but saw the field was open. They convert on 3rd down, and a great run by the senior quarterback, Landon Everett, for 15. So they convert, bring the ball out to the 28. Landon Everett with Braden Collins behind him. Design run. Everett trying to get to the outside, and he is clobbered as he made his way over the middle by Jace Nider. That is a run for no gain.
I'll tell you, that kid, Nider, has just had a heck of a game. He's got an interception and a fumble recovery.
So to the 38-yard line, 2nd down, or excuse me, the 28-yard line, 2nd down and 10.
Now you're going to have the 2 receiver looks, so you got to think they're going to throw it here.
Brandon Huff and Kinzer Colgin to the top side. Tyson Struber, the receiver, near side. Tyler Rummel, the tight end, to the left side of this offensive line for Landon Everett out of the gun. 2nd and 10, trailing by 22. Everett wants one to the outside. Quick hitch route for Kinzer Colgin. Might have been deflected at the line, but lands incomplete and short. 3rd down and 10.
5 for 14 for Everett, which is pretty unusual for him.
Normally a 61% passer.
But remember, he's playing with a sprained AC joint, and that is painful.
And his right shoulder, and trying to gut his way through this one. Tyson Struber in a one-on-one matchup with Brady Dinkle near side. We'll see if they test him. St. Francis nearly jumps into the neutral zone as the Eagles get the audible play call from the near sideline. 3rd and 10 from the 28. Landon Everett out of the gun. 2 to the top side, 1 to the near side. Everett snaps his hands. Passes near side, caught by Struber. Turns up the sideline with some space. Struber crosses midfield at the 20, at the 10, 5, touchdown, Canton Galva. On 3rd down and 10, they dial it up for 52 yards. Tyson Struber brings the Eagles back to within 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion coming up. How good is Tyson Struber?
Well, I'll tell you, he is an athlete. And remember, just a sophomore. This is a big 2-pointer now for Canton Galva. They'll be 2 scores back. They can get another stop on defense. They've got that win. What a comeback by the Canton Galva Eagles.
36-20 on the 52-yard passing touchdown to Tyson Struber, going for 2. Everett to the back of the end zone, overthrows Tyler Rummel after being knocked down to the ground by Jesse Baxter. But the Eagles are right back in this thing, baby. 7:24 to go in the 3rd. It's St. Francis 36, Canton Galva 20. The Eagles have scored 3 consecutive touchdowns.
And again, they're only 2 scores down with the 2-point conversion. So Canton Galva showing a lot of intestinal fortitude in this game.
Struber made the catch on the out route, and at first he was short of the 1st down on 3rd and 10. He caught it at about 7 yards down the field here on the near sideline, turned and made one move, and already made his way into St. Francis territory, then cut it up near the hashes, went right down the middle of the field, and scores from 52 yards out for Canton Galva to get back to within 2 touchdowns.
He's the most explosive athlete on the field, so Canton Galva back in it. I want to shout out to Rick Davison, my friend Rick Davison. He told me he wouldn't miss a second of this game today. He's listening at home.
There you go. Rick,
he's the man.
7:24 to go in the 3rd quarter. Canton Galva back to within 16. They were down 36-0, and it's now 36-20.
We were talking 45-point rule, and now if you're Canton Galva, you can hope you can kick this thing out of the end zone and get a 3 and out and take advantage of this win.
7:24 to go, third quarter. Canton Galva will kick off from right to left. Brandon Huff toes this one with a strong wind at his back. Caught by Brady Dinkle at his 2. Dinkle running down the near side. Dinkle makes his way out to the 20 and out of bounds at the 24. Do you sense a little more life here on the Canton Galva sideline, Steve?
Well, Eagle Nation, give a big shout out to Eagle Nation. They have turned out in mass today. Ball should be on the 24, it looks like.
I don't know how many people exactly live in Canton and in Galva, but I think about 90% of them are here today. And I don't know what Fisher Field can hold, but certainly more Canton Galva fans than bleachers because people are lined up all the way around the stadium. First and 10, St. Francis at its 24. Shadron Blanca takes the direct snap. Blanca to the outside and has some room. Blanca to the 30, and they'll say he stepped out of bounds after a gain of 12. And fortunately for Canton Galva, because that was going to be a 56-yard touchdown.
I'll say one thing St. Francis does. They run basically everything to the left side. So they must have all their really good blockers on that side because that's where they're really making their money today on offense.
First down and 10 for St. Francis after a run of 12 for Shadron Blanca. First and 10 at their own 36. Run up the middle, Brady Dinkle tripped up as he made his way through the line of scrimmage. They'll give him progress to the 49, so a gain of 3. Second down and 7. Canton Galva up front defensively. Mason Reedy, Connor Kane, Nick Pearson, Braden Collins, and Brendan Huff at linebacker. Kinzer Colgan, Tyson Struber, and Landon Everett, the 3 in the secondary.
And they are at the 39 here, so that is 3-yard pickup, and Dinkle at 128 yards.
Second and 7, Dinkle runs again. Dinkle up the middle, and he is stuffed. Nothing there. And the ball came out at the end of the play, but they will say that St. Francis has got it. They'll give Dinkle forward progress to midfield at the 40, making this third down and 6.
And if you're Canton Galva, this could very well be the play of the game.
6:20 to go, third quarter. Canton Galva Nation is about ready to erupt if they get a stop here. Third and 6 from midfield. St. Francis going into the wind here in this third quarter. And St. Francis is in no hurry. The Indians are probably going to have to burn a timeout here. And they will. Nick Fawcett in his second season at St. Francis as the head coach with a 23-1 record. And they take a timeout here with a third and 6 from midfield, coming up with 5:59 left to go in quarter number 3. So Canton Galva's defense trying to come up with another stop. They came up with a stop here to start this second half, trailing by 22. Forced the St. Francis punt, and then drove down the field. It took 6 plays, 65 yards, and the big one, 52 yards on the passing touchdown from Landon Everett to Tyson Struber.
And you got to think, whatever they do, they are going to go to the left side because they have run almost exclusively left in this game.
Connor Kane, as well as Nick Pearson, Mason Reedy, those 3 defensive linemen trying to come up with another big-time stop here. Canton Galva in the game has forced 3 turnovers. And if they force another one, then they begin to get the turnover margin back to even. But trying for a big stop here. Third and 6 out of the timeout. Dinkle runs to his left. Dinkle tripped up at the line of scrimmage. Dinkle fighting forward and does not have it. Dinkle picks up 4. He was springing down from his ankles. 4th and 2 for St. Francis at the Eagle 36. They've got to get to the 34.
Well, this is your ball game right here. I really believe it. If Canton Galva can get a stop here on this huge 4th down play, get the ball, their offense is clicking right now.
4th and 2. Canton Galva loads the box with 8 defenders. Up the middle. They go for it, and I'm not sure if he's there.
It's going to be spin on the spot where they... Ooh, that's a pretty
It was
good...
Shadron Blanca that ran up the middle.
If it's a left foot spot, it's Canton Galva. If it's a right foot spot, it's St. Francis. That's how close it is. I think he's got it by the nose.
I think he's short. They needed to get to the 34 or just short of the 34, and the back end of the football is on the 35. The front end of the football is not quite to the 34. And we've got a good angle as they bring the chains out. Oh, boy, is this close after that fourth down run. Canton Galva hoping for a stop, and it is short. Canton Galva comes up with a turnover on downs, and the Eagles will take over at their 35-yard line. My goodness. Canton Galva with back-to-back stops, and now have a chance to make it a one-touchdown game, trailing 36-20, 5:14 to go in the third.
And I think you just got to – they've got Dinkle now on Struber matched up man-to-man, so – it's obvious they know the ball's going to go to Struber. Might be a time to hit him with Braden Collins right up the middle.
1st and 10 for Canton Galva at its own 35, back to within 16. Direct snap to Collins. Collins lowers his shoulder and makes his way through the middle for a gain of 3. Approaching midfield to the 40, gain of 3 to the 38.
Collins just hasn't really been able to get on track. He had one 26-yard run, and other than that, he's only got 10 other yards. 12 carries, 36 yards for Collins.
Under 5 to go third quarter. Canton Galva trails 36-20 after trailing 36-0. Trying for its 4th consecutive touchdown. Handoff up the middle. Collins makes his way into Indian territory at the 39, and that will be a gain of 3 to make it 3rd down and 4.
Well, I think if you're Canton Galva, this is 2-down territory because you're still down 16 points. So if you get a good gain here, even if you don't make it, you got to go on 4th down. Your defense is playing well right now.
3rd and 4 in St. Francis territory at the 39. Landon Everett takes a snap looking to pass. Wants one quick to the near side, caught by Struber. Struber at the 35 and out of bounds inside the 30 and down to the 27-yard line. They find their number 1 man again, Tyson Struber. That's their third down conversion of the second half. 1st and 10 Eagles at the St. Francis 27.
You have 12 on the pickup, and Dinkle went for the interception that time.
Landon Everett designed quarterback run on 1st and 10. Everett shakes and bakes to the outside, breaks out of 1 tackle, and is taken down. They'll give him some forward progress down to the 26, when in reality he probably could have been called for a loss of 2. Instead, 2nd down and 9.
Yeah, Landon Everett just hasn't been able to get going either. Really, the running game, Canton Galva averaging less than 3 yards a carry in this game.
Canton Galva with a wind at its back, 3:45 left to go, third quarter. Trailing 36-20, but a chance to make this an 8-point game. 2nd and 9, Everett to pass, looks near side, pumps. He's got Struber in the end zone. Struber makes the catch. Touchdown, Eagles! What a play. Landon Everett pumped here to the near side, finds Tyson Struber as they strike and are able to score from 26 yards out. And this is a 10-point game, 36-26 with 3:34 to go.
And
in the third quarter.
And that's why these 2-point conversions now are very important.
Tyson Struber with his 3rd touchdown reception of the game, and all of them have happened since the 58-second mark of the second quarter. 3:34 to go in the third, 36-26. Landon Everett will get the play call from the near side for the 2-point conversion. If Canton Galva gets the 2-point conversion here, they're back to within 8.
Wow. And they still have 3:34 to go in the quarter with the win. They could get a 3 and out. Who knows?
Brandon Huff in the backfield with Landon Everett. Landon Everett takes a snap, wants to run to the outside. Everett is hit by St. Francis and will not make it to the end zone, keeping this at a 10-point game. But Canton Galva scores its 4th consecutive touchdown to make it 36-26. Landon Everett with a great pass down the near side for Tyson Struber. They pumped, threw it toward the end zone, and Struber made the grab on the goal line, and we have got a game.
What a comeback by the Eagles.
36-26 here from Fisher Field in Newton with 3:34 to go in the third. And somehow this Canton Galva team has found life. They have fought their way back. And with another stop, Steve, they can't tie the game at this point. It's still a 2-possession game, and that's why that 2-point conversion was so big. But they're back in this game, and with the way this defense is playing, you got to like their chances.
Well, that's what we said. It starts with defense. I know the offense is really firing now, but as long as they keep getting stops, they give that offense a chance to put points on the board.
How about these Eagles trailing 36-0, scored? They were trailing 36-0 with less than 3 minutes to go before the half. And in the last 12 minutes have scored 26 points.
Well, Tyson Struber has just shown the state today he is a star receiver and just an incredible athlete.
Brandon Huff to kick off for Canton Galva with a big win at its back, and now the ball falls off the tee right as Huff made his way up there.
And I thought Canton Galva would have been offsides had he kicked that game, but they were not throwing a flag. But you look at the last 5 catches for Struber, 39, 26, 52, 12, and 26.
Not bad.
That's not bad.
Just a sophomore.
Yeah.
He has 3 receiving touchdowns in the game for 16 on the year. So Brandon Huff will try the kickoff again.
And St. Francis now, they're the ones that got to be a little shell-shocked. For one thing, they keep running the same direction, and Canton Galva's figured out you just have to stack, if you're Canton Galva, the right side of your defense because everything is left for St. Francis. They got to start running some stuff the other way.
Brandon Huff to kick off with Eagle Nation roaring here at Fisher Field. Ball bounces in front of Brady Dinkle, and he bobbles it. The ball will go into the end zone, though, and St. Francis will start at its 15.
And all those things that went against Canton Galva are now starting to rear their head for St. Francis, like struggling to, catch the ball on the kickoff and things like that.
3:34 to go here in the third quarter. And Canton Galva's defense trying to amp it up. And how about a turnover, Steve?
Oh, this place would be up for grabs if that happened. The Eagle Nation is just getting really excited here.
First down and 10. It's a single wing look. Shadron Blanca runs up the middle for St. Francis and is able to make his way into the linebacking core with a gain of 4. Second down and 6 from the the 19.
And if you're Canton Galva, you just have to keep getting stops.
13th possession of the game for St. Francis. Jay Nightingale comes in on the defensive line. The 5'10", 251-pound senior trying to plug up some holes there up front for St. Francis's offense. Second down and 6 from the 19.
St. Francis taking a lot more time in the huddle.
Again, another single wing look. Blanca and Dinkle back behind. Direct snap to Dinkle. Dinkle runs up the middle, and he's upended by the safety man. As this one was trying to get through, Tyson Struber hit him after a gain of 4 up to the 24. 23, third down and 2.
138 yards on 29 carries. And they did what you have to do on Dinkle. You got to hit him low. You got to take his long legs out from under him.
Third down and a long one. Third down and 1.5. They've got to get to the 25. Ball is in between the 23 and the 24. Down to 5 seconds to snap it. St. Francis might not get this off. And the Indians are forced to take their second timeout.
Wow. They are just a little out of sync right now.
When Canton Galva has brought the intensity here in the second half. 2:10 to go in the third quarter. Canton Galva trails St. Francis 36-26. A big third down and 2 coming up when we come back. This timeout is brought to you by the Lindsborg Community Hospital Urgent Care Clinic, now open 7 days a week to meet your health care needs. Back in 30 seconds, you're listening to Canton Galva State Championship Football on after the timeout and stretched the football forward and fumbled, but they will say that the knee was down on the runner there for St. Francis and Shadron Blanca, and he's just short. They're on 3rd and 1 to make it 4th down and inches for St. Francis from its own 24.
And St. Francis will go for it. This is a very risky play for St. Francis. They got to execute it perfectly. You know they're going to go to the left side. That's where they've been going all day.
4th and inches, St. Francis from its own 24.5. They have to cross the 25. 2 backs behind, Blanca and Dinkle. They give it to Blanca. Blanca stretches forward and should have enough for the first down. He was stopped initially, kept his feet moving, and will cross the 25 to the 26. Fresh set of downs for St. Francis with 1:30 left to go in the third quarter. St. Francis leads by 10.
And Dinkle gave him a little bit of shove in the back to push him forward.
First down and 10 for St. Francis at its own 26-yard line, approaching the end of this third quarter. Canton Galva was down 36-0, but has scored the last 26 points to get back to within 10. First and 10. Dinkle keeps up the middle. Dinkle hit and taken down for no gain. Mason Reedy was there, as well as Nick Pearson for no gain. Second down and 10.
Well, again, when you look back at the first half, they scored just basically because Canton Galva had so many turnovers deep in their own territory. It's not like they have just been putting up a ton of yards.
Second down and 10 for St. Francis at its own 26. The Indians have used 2 timeouts, but the clock is St. Francis's friend. And if they do things right, this could be the final play of the third quarter. Snap comes back, design run, Shadron Blanca. Blanca trying to get the edge, and he's taken down for a big-time loss. Chasing him into the backfield, Tyson Struber brings him down for a loss of 5. That will likely be the final play of the third quarter. St. Francis looking at a third down and 15.
Big play by the Canton Galva defense. They were going to look like throw the football, which is very uncommon for St. Francis considering they hadn't thrown the ball in 4 weeks.
Third down and 15. 3 seconds left to go here in the third quarter. St. Francis will take this to quarter number 4. The second half, the third quarter, has been all Eagles. They were trailing at the break, 36-14. They have scored 2 touchdowns, and at the end of 3, trail St. Francis 36-26 with the third and 15 for the Indians coming up to start the fourth quarter. Listening to Canton Galva State Championship Football on 96.7 FM KBBE. We start the fourth quarter from Fisher Field in Newton. Jim Joyner, Steve Sell, 96.7 FM KBBE for the 2019 8-man Division I State Championship game. 12 more minutes to go. Canton Galva trails St. Francis 36-26 as they are back to within 10, and St. Francis looking at a third down and 15 on the first play of the fourth quarter. Brady Dinkle out of the gun. Will St. Francis pass now with the wind at its back? St. Francis will. Dinkle throws one up for grabs. This one is broken up by Tyson Struber. They threw one up for grabs for Adam Krein over the middle. Tyson Struber, the hard-hitting man in the secondary, playing his best game of the season, breaks it up, incomplete. 4th and 15, and a St. Francis punt on the way.
Boy, what Canton Galva could use right now is a punt return for a touchdown. I believe Struber is going back.
Tyson Struber will wait for the Brady Dinkle punt to come back to him. And this one wasn't hit great. Spiraling punt that bounces at the Canton Galva 30 and takes a nice Indian bounce down to about the 20. And we'll see where they mark it. It is exactly on the 20. So Canton Galva takes over at its own 20, 11:48 to go.
And if you're the Eagles, you want a quick score here.
First and 10 with 11:48 to go. And if they are able to find a way to score quickly, you got to love this defense's chance because they have been lights out.
They really have.
Ever since the first couple of drives of this game. Remember, Canton Galva had 5 first-half turnovers. First and 10 for Landon Everett, and Canton Galva trying to score for the 5th consecutive drive. They fake to Tyson Struber on the jet sweep. Everett keeps. Everett running near side with a hole. Everett at midfield. Everett down the near sideline. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Canton Galva. 60 yards on the Landon Everett run, and the Eagles are back to within 4. 36-32 St. Francis. The senior Landon Everett ran right down the near sideline. How about that for a quick score? Landon Everett and the Eagles with a 2-point conversion can make it a 2-point game. Unbelievable.
You got to believe. If you're a Canton Galva fan, you just got to believe in this team. You saw them score 32 points against South Central. They have scored 32 unanswered here. 2-point conversion really big here.
Landon Everett trying to make it 36-34. Snap comes back to him. They give to Tyson Struber on the handoff. Struber to the end zone and scores. It's a 2-point conversion. Canton Galva has scored 34 unanswered points, and the Eagles are back to within 2, 36-34. Unbelievable. Landon Everett with a 60-yard touchdown run. His 23rd rushing touchdown, 24th rushing touchdown of the season. And the Eagles, after trailing 36-0, trail 36-34.
Well, in the second quarter, we were starting to think of filler material because it was looking like such a one-sided blowout. But I'll tell you what, I don't know what Shelby Hopp has said at halftime, but this team has come out, and they have just absolutely dominated this game since late in the first half.
36-34 St. Francis. Canton Galva will be kicking off into the wind, and this Eagle defense has been up to the challenge since the very end of the second quarter. And if it weren't for 5 Canton Galva turnovers in the first half, well, you'd be feeling pretty good as an Eagle fan.
Yep.
But you're back to within 2 with 11:37 to go. First play for Canton Galva, and Landon Everett takes it right to the house.
That's what we were talking about. You need a quick score, and Landon Everett now, he's just throwing all the pain aside. He's just going to give it his all here.
Brandon Huff kicks off right down the middle, back toward Brady Dinkle. Makes the grab at his 15, and then makes the way up to the 25, and Canton Galva brings him down at the 26. Well, here is where that Eagle defense can shine one more time. Can they come up with another stop and give the offense a chance to take the lead? And the other thing, too, here, Steve, if St. Francis scores a touchdown and they don't get the 2-point conversion, it's still a one-possession game.
Yeah, St. Francis has not scored. Again, they took advantage of incredible field position for all their scores, but one in the first half.
Starting at their own 26, out of the gun, Brady Dinkle and Adam Krein. Dinkle runs to his right. Dinkle runs right into a brick wall, and it's Connor Kane that brings him down for a loss. Back to the 25. Dinkle waited and waited and waited and ran right into the junior nose tackle, Connor Kane, who had 10 tackles last week, 2nd down and 11.
And this is where the diversity in the two teams' offenses is really coming into play. They're just not used to throwing the football, and Canton Galva has figured some things out against the run. Of course, Canton with that multiple offensive attack.
11 minutes to go, 36-34, St. Francis here in the 2019 8-man Division I state championship game. Single wing look, Shadron Blanca running out of room and taken down by Landon Everett for a big time TFL. Landon Everett, the senior, not trying to go down easy tonight. 3rd down and 13 coming up for St. Francis, and the Indians will be forced to pass more than likely.
And remember, they only have one timeout left. St. Francis, Canton Galva with its full complement of timeouts.
3rd down and 13, Landon Everett with the 2-yard tackle for a loss. 10:20 to go. 36-34, St. Francis leads by 2, but needing a big-time conversion. 3rd down, 13. St. Francis takes the snap, Dinkle to pass. Dinkle rolling near side. Dinkle has to throw one up for grabs deep down the field. It's incomplete. And St. Francis will be forced to punt. And Canton Galva will have its first chance to take the lead.
That's just, it's almost unfathomable. You know, I've been covering high school football for 44 years. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. This is just amazing.
St. Francis led 36-0. With 2:57 to go in the second quarter. Brady Dinkle will punt, and there's a flag down at the line of scrimmage.
Canton Galva, too many guys on the field.
The punt will go over the head of Tyson Struber.
And I think actually St. Francis will decline that because they have a mile to go to get a first down. They'll have Canton Galva on the 15-yard line. So I think if you're St. Francis, you decline this because that is a 60-yard punt. It's got to be on Canton Galva because they were running guys on the field.
I didn't see the call, Steve. So they're talking over on this far sideline, so it is on Canton Galva. 36-34, St. Francis leads with 9:57 to go in the game. They just punted one into the end zone for a touchback. But we'll see if they decide to take this penalty.
Somehow, the official's looking like he's going to mark it off.
An illegal substitution on Canton Galva,
Right.
and an illegal procedure on St. Francis, so offsetting penalties.
What a break for Canton Galva. That's a big break for Canton Galva.
So St. Francis will punt again. 4th down and 13, 9:57 to go, 36-34 St. Francis. And in this type of game, a ton of time left. Tyson Struber, they nearly block the punt, and they throw in a flag.
It's got to be
punt
running.
lands out of bounds.
It's a running into the kicker, though. I think it's a 5. Yep. It's only a 5, and that is not an automatic first down.
The punt went out of bounds, and it was not a good punt, so that means St. Francis will likely punt again. It was 4th down and 13.
And, boy, he didn't really do. And Shelby Hoppus wants a tip. He says, we tipped that ball.
This has been a mess the last minute.
It's not an automatic first down, I don't believe, on a
Not on the
5-yard.
5. So it's a running into the kicker on Canton Galva, and they will replay 4th down and try the punt again, this time from 4th down and 8.
And if you're Canton Galva, I don't think you even try to block this. I really don't. You can't risk a penalty at this point.
So still 4th down and long. St. Francis with a big win at its back and 9:52 to go. Well, if they keep doing this, they can dwindle down the next 10 minutes. Brady Dinkle to punt. They don't rush much, and Dinkle hits a low-line drive. It's in front of Struber and rolls into the end zone for a touchback. And Canton Galva, down by 2, will start at its own 15 with 9:46 to go.
Now, if you're Canton Galva, you've got plenty of time.
And all 3 timeouts. Not that they're going to need them on this drive. 9:46 to go from their own 15. Canton Galva can take its first lead of the game after trailing 36-0. Landon Everett with Braden Collins is running back to his left. 1st down and 10. Everett design run. Everett spins, makes his way up the middle, and picks up about 5 yards to the 20. 2nd down and 5 on the Landon Everett design quarterback run.
And what a shot. He play, and he still gets right back up.
Remember, Landon Everett playing with that separated AC joint in his shoulder and gunning through it here today, trying to win a state championship. Everett run again on 2nd and 5, and this time he's stuffed at the line of scrimmage for no gain. 3rd down and 5 for Canton Galva now at its own 20.
And you got to think they're going to try to find Struber maybe in the flat here.
Tyson Struber has 3 receiving touchdowns today. Landon Everett with 2 rushing touchdowns. 3rd and 5 from the 20 with 9 minutes to go. Canton Galva trails by 2. Brandon Huff in the backfield with Landon Everett. 3rd and 5 from the 20. Everett takes a snap, looking left, wants the pass, throws one for Tyson Struber, makes a catch at midfield, and makes his way into St. Francis territory down to the 37-yard line. Struber almost broke through. The Eagles with a big-time conversion on the move, trying to take their first lead of the game.
Give 23 on the play to Struber.
How good has Tyson Struber been today? Not only defensively, not only offensively, but his defense has been tremendous too. 1st and 10 for Canton Galva at the St. Francis 37. Trailing by 2 with 8:15 to go. Run up the middle. Braden Collins with some separation. Braden Collins made his way into the secondary and is taken down after a gain of 9. 2nd down and 1 coming up inside the St. Francis 30. To the 28.
Canton Galva's just feeling it right now. They just feel like they cannot be stopped. We have seen this before from this team against South Central. No panic, no rush. Just keep doing what you're doing if you're Canton Galva.
Brandon Huff back in the game with Landon Everett behind him. A shotgun, but angled back to his right. 2nd down and 1. Landon Everett takes a high snap, runs up the middle. Everett at the 25. Everett lowers his shoulder and makes his way down to the 20. 1st down and 10, Canton Galva. They'll spot him at the 21, and now a St. Francis Indian is down in the middle of the field. That was Colton Neitzel,
Landon Everett now, 15 carries, 102 yards. Remember, he was minus 11 at one point, but he is just gutted. This is just a portrait in courage right now. And they got
Jesse Baxter is still down on the play. He was slow to get up at first, and if you're a Canton Galva fan, Jesse Baxter is not one you want to see hurt, but if he sits down a couple of plays, you wouldn't mind because he is a terrific defensive end. So Canton Galva will have a first down and 10 at the 21 as they look at Jesse Baxter down on the field right now. 7:34 to go. St. Francis 36, Canton Galva 34. And as we walk you back through what happened in this game, St. Francis scored the first 5 touchdowns of this game, leading 8-0, 14-0, 22-0, 30-0, and 36-0 with 2:57 to go in the second quarter. So this was a blowout, 36-0, and St. Francis had a chance to score another touchdown before the half and potentially go ahead and find a way to win this one at the break. But Canton Galva scored 2 touchdowns right before the half. One with 1:39 to go in the second quarter on a run by Landon Everett, and then another on a receiving touchdown by Tyson Struber, which made it 36-14 at the break. Since then, Canton Galva has come up with 4 stops defensively, and 3 touchdowns, and they are back to within 2, 36-34. Here in the 8-man Division I state championship game from Fisher Field in Newton, as Jesse Baxter will be helped off the field for St. Francis with no weight on his left leg.
I don't think we're going to see him again. And if you're Canton Galva, though, you have just, we said it had to start with the defense, and that's where it started. Getting stops and allowing this high-octane offense to finally find its footing, which it has done here.
1st and 10 Eagles after the nice run. 1st and 10 Eagles at the St. Francis 21. And St. Francis will have to go into its depth chart, which they don't do much of.
No, they do not sub. It's basically 8 guys.
And Shannon Rethke will come in at the defensive end spot, the 150-pound sophomore. 1st and 10 Eagles at the St. Francis 21, trailing by 2. Handoff, Braden Collins tripped up in the secondary and almost was able to break away and score the go-ahead touchdown. They stop him at the 12. And they will say just short, 2nd down and inches.
Yeah.
Quickly on the ball. 2nd down and inches from the 12. Landon Everett takes a snap, give to Collins again. Collins inside the 10. He's got the first down, and a 1st and goal coming up for the Eagles at the 9 with 7:11 to go.
Well, we talked about it. They don't sub. Canton Galva does. And maybe that conditioning is paying off for Canton Galva.
7:10 to go. Canton Galva with a 1st and goal at the St. Francis 9, trailing by 2, 36-34. Landon Everett with Brandon Huff in the backfield with him. And now Canton Galva trying to take a little more time. 6:50 to go, a ton of time left to go in this game. 1st and goal at the 9. Landon Everett will run. Everett to the near side, 5. Everett lowers his shoulder, and is he in? Yes, he is! Touchdown, Canton Galva! The Eagles somehow have overcome and swung at 40 points, and they lead St. Francis 40-36 with 6:45 to go. 40 consecutive points for the Eagles, and they lead here in the state championship game. Unbelievable. They go 65 yards on 8 plays and will go for 2 to try and make it a 6-point lead.
Yeah, and I think it starts up front. They're just getting big holes now.
6:45 to go. They go same end around play. Tyson Struber walks it in with a 2-point conversion. Canton Galva leads 42-36 here in the 8-man Division I state championship game with 6:45 to go. Landon Everett with back-to-back rushing touchdowns. This one from 9 yards out, plus the 2-point conversion. And for the first time today, Canton Galva leads as they are 6:45 away from the first state championship in program history.
Man, this is about the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever seen. It's just, what a testament to Coach Hoppus, these players. Now they've got to get one more big defensive stop because this offense can't be stopped right now. I think St. Francis is a little bit gassed, and I just think Canton Galva, they're riding this emotional adrenaline right now.
St. Francis, remember, has the wind at its back as the Indians, who really do not throw the football, will have to find a way to score a touchdown and with a 2-point conversion take the lead.
Heck, we may have 2 or 3 more scores left in this game.
There is a lot of time left in this game.
That's what we say about the 8-man, because the 8-man game, you find schools that have that one really great athlete that can just basically make a play on his own. and both teams have 2 or 3 guys like that, and we're seeing it with Canton Galva.
42-36 Canton Galva with 6:45 to go. 42-36, Brandon Huff with a kickoff into the wind, back toward Brady Dinkle, who makes the grab at his 12. Dinkle on the near hashes. Dinkle runs up the middle and is taken down at the 25-yard line. So St. Francis down 6 with 6:39 to go. Takes over, and will have to try and find a way to win here in this game and come back. St. Francis was up 36-0. Steve, I have received a text from a Canton Galvaite that says she is crying. Emotional day today and this unbelievable comeback. First down and 10 for St. Francis at its own 25. 6:39 to go. Brady Dinkle out of the gun. Counter play, and Dinkle is blown up in the backfield. The Eagle pressure up front comes through. Nick Pearson with a tackle for a loss, and a loss of 3 back to the 22.
Well, again, as great as the Canton Galva offense has been, and it has been fantastic, getting stops on defense is what got them back into the game. They knew at some point this offense would get on track. Now the defense has to continue to play lights out.
2nd and 13 for St. Francis with 6:05 to go. Canton Galva trailed 36-0 and now leads 42-36. Dinkle out of the gun. 2 receivers to his right. Dinkle to pass. Dinkle trying to air one out down the middle. Beyond the defense, and it's picked off by Tyson Struber. Struber at the near 30. Struber at midfield, trying to take it back to the house. Struber hit at the 30-yard line, and the Eagles take over in St. Francis territory at the 27. Tyson Struber did it 10 times a season ago, and that's his 7th pick of the year. First down and 10. Canton Galva Eagles with a chance to make it a 2-score game. 5:48 to go.
This is about as exciting as the Dagger game. I'll tell you.
Back when Taylor Robertson, Mandy Cooks, and the McPherson girls found a way to beat Bishop Miege in overtime back in 2018.
Being down 8 points with less than 2 minutes to go.
Well, Canton Galva takes over now at the St. Francis 27. Landon Everett run up the middle. Landon Everett into the secondary. See you later, St. Francis. 10-5, touchdown Eagles. Landon Everett from 27 yards out with 5:40 to go. And Canton Galva leads 48-36. Unbelievable.
Landon Everett, this is as courageous a performance as you will ever see.
48-36 on the 27-yard run by Landon Everett with 5:40 to go, and Canton Galva leads by 12.
And look at the St. Francis cheering section. Well, I should say cheering section. The section over there, they are in shock.
Maybe the most improbable comeback in state championship game history. Canton Galva takes a timeout with a 48-36 lead and 5:40 to go. Landon Everett with a 27-yard rushing touchdown put the St. Francis Indians in the dust, and Canton Galva, after trailing by 5 scores, now leads by 2.
And we were talking the 45-point rule might come into effect in the first half for St. Francis. They were very close to closing this game out, but I think what you're seeing is St. Francis does not have basically any subs. They play their Iron 8, and they are just gassed. They're tired of chasing Everett. They're tired of chasing Struber. Struber just, I'll tell you what an incredible athlete he is.
It's not over yet. A lot of game left to go, but this Canton Galva team is feeling good. Aaron Newton. 5:40 to go. They'll go for 2. 48-36. Everett out of the gun. Takes a snap and rolls left. He's got the entire field in front of him. Landon Everett, 2-point conversion, but a flag is thrown.
Had a hold out there on the left end. So
it will be a hold on Canton Galva, making this a much longer 2-point conversion. 48-36.
Canton Galva now with 200 yards on the ground. And what were they at half? They had like 40, I think, at the half. They had 53 at the half.
So they will try the 2-point conversion again. Canton Galva trailed 36-0 with 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. And we were thinking running clock at half, 2-point conversion. Everett rolls to his right, passes toward Tyson Struber, makes the catch. Is he in the end zone? Yes, and he's in. 2-point conversion. What a throw. What a catch on the back shoulder. Tyson Struber for 2, and Canton Galva leads 50-36 with 5:40 to go.
Oh, this is just, I mean, there's no words to describe this.
Landon Everett with 4 rushing touchdowns today. Tyson Struber with 3 receiving touchdowns from guess who? Landon Everett, a guy that we did not know if he was even going to be able to play today. Landon Everett accounting for 7 touchdowns, not to mention playing defense, and Canton Galva leads 50-36 with 5:40 to go. Unbelievable.
I'm speechless. I mean, I've seen a lot of things in 44 years, 45 years of covering high school football, but nothing like this. I've never seen a team that looked so down and so dead in the water make a comeback like this.
And the one play that I think St. Francis will turn to is when the Indians took over right before the half with 1:36 to go and fumbled. It gave Canton Galva life. The Eagles scored to just trail 36-14 at the half. And I said it, Steve, that they went into the half feeling confident. St. Francis felt a little dejected that they couldn't put it away. And Canton Galva somehow has scored 50 unanswered points and leads by 14, 5:40 to go. Brandon Huff will kick off. A toe poke will bounce up the middle. Scooped up by Brady Dinkle. He bobbles it down inside the 10. Dinkle trying to escape. Dinkle trying to get back to the 10 and taken down to the 12. 5:33 to go. St. Francis takes over at its own 11 is where they'll spot the football. And here is the game. St. Francis has got to score to find a way to get back in this.
Well, I don't think it's going to matter because if Canton Galva gets the ball, they're not going to be stopped. But again, we talked about in the first half, look at all those kickoffs that Canton Galva boxed around and fumbled around in the first half. All the things that went wrong for Canton Galva in the first half are happening to St. Francis in the second half.
5:33 to go, and St. Francis takes over at its 11. Can that Eagle defense come up with yet another stop? It was an interception by Tyson Struber on the last drive. Dinkle to pass, being chased all the way back into the end zone. Dinkle scrambles around, picks up the first, then some more as he makes his way out to the 23-yard line and a run of 12 yards. It was almost a safety, but the very quick Brady Dinkle gets out of trouble and brings it out to the 23. That's the first down for St. Francis in quite some time. Down to 5:20 to go. Canton Galva leads by 14, 50-36. A comeback for the ages. 1st and 10. St. Francis probably needs to pick up the pace here a little bit with 5:05 to go. Brady Dinkle out of the gun. Dinkle to pass, looking left and looking deep, gets hit. Ball is in the air and it's intercepted by Brandon Huff at the 35. Huff trying to take it back for 6, down the near sideline, 10, 5, dives for the pylon, and they'll say he stepped out of bounds at the 4. Brandon Huff almost had the pick 6 as Brady Dinkle was hit as he threw. Brandon Huff with his 3rd interception of the season, and the Eagles have got it 1st and goal at the St. Francis 4.
My goodness. This is, you gotta love 8-man football, man. I tell you what, just incredible stuff happens, and Canton Galva now can put this game away with a touchdown and 2-pointer.
They will start at the St. Francis 4 with 4:50 to go. Landon Everett out of the pistol. Everett gives to Braden Collins and walks into the end zone for an Eagle touchdown. 56 consecutive points for Canton Galva as they lead St. Francis 56-36 with 4:47 to go.
Wow. That's all I can say. I mean, there's people passing out in the stands. They're fainting from just, they're losing their minds.
They'll go for 2. Landon Everett gives right back to Braden Collins and tiptoes into the end zone. The 2-point conversion is good. Canton Galva leads by 22, and I get the feeling they're going to have a celebration in between Canton and Galva tonight.
Well,
Park your cars halfway between the two towns and start the party.
My goodness. This is just beyond phenomenal.
Canton
44,
Galva.
what is it, 44 points in the second half? Is that correct, or 42?
They've scored 44 second half points with 4:47 to go in the game.
Well, and now it's just starting to look like, they were the better team all along. They just kind of shot themselves in the foot. Once they got those big horses up front blocking, I'll tell you, look at Zachary Hoppus. He's losing his mind here, and great job. He's really happy for his little brother, Shelby, and Canton Galva's feeling good right now. They feel like they've got this football game under control.
A little over 4 years ago, Canton Galva did not have enough players to play an 8-man football game.
Week 8.
They didn't have 8 players to play.
Yep.
And now they're 4:47 away. When these seniors were in 8th grade, they watched that happen, and they're 4:47 away from the first state championship in program history. Unbelievable. 58-36, Canton Galva leads with 4:47 to go. And maybe the greatest state championship game comeback is about to come full circle. Brandon Huff, after the interception, kicks this one back off, all the way back to St. Francis at the 10. Coming back across the middle and tripped up at about the 21 there for St. Francis was Josiah Sims. So Sims made it out to the 24. And that is where St. Francis will try and get something going here with 4:40 to go.
What is going through the minds of the St. Francis players? You're probably celebrating at halftime. You're up 30. You have 36 points at halftime. Your defense is just playing lights out. But my goodness, this is just a comeback for the ages.
I know Tom Brady was down 28-3 in the Super Bowl against Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons and found a way to force overtime. But the Eagles don't need no overtime.
No stinking overtime.
First down and 10 for St. Francis. It was still 4:40 to go. There have been 3 scores in the last 2 minutes.
And we have played 2 hours and 19 minutes in this football game.
And now a delay of game on St. Francis off of the kickoff.
They are just totally discombobulated.
So back them up to the 19, 1st and 15 for Canton Galva.
Well, we're hoping at some point to talk to Shelby Hoppus. I don't know if we'll ever be able to get to him because he's going to have so many people just.
He is now the most popular man.
He is the mayor of Canton and Galva both.
Shelby Hoppus for mayor. 1st and 15 from the 19-yard line for St. Francis down to its last gasp. Shadron Blanca runs up the middle on the single wing and is taken down for a loss of 1. Brandon Huff there to hit him, and what a year Brandon Huff has had. More than 80 tackles, 11 for a loss, 3 interceptions, and this one will be for no gain, 2nd and 15.
And I mean, St. Francis has basically done absolutely nothing in the second half. No points after 36 points in basically a quarter and a half in that first half. They're just not equipped to throw the ball. It's just unusual for them.
2nd and 15. Now Blanca to pass. Blanca heaves one all the way down the field. The Eagles are in coverage and had it locked up on Brady Dinkle, who is their big play threat. They can't afford to have him back at quarterback. They want to have him at wide receiver, and that's incomplete. Tyson Struber, Kinzer Colgin in coverage. Steve, I got a text from our good friend Shad Marston, who always sends us updates during the game. He doesn't need to today. He said, we're going to 45-point rule him. 58-36 with 3:58 to go. 3rd down and 15 for St. Francis. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I'm just I've never covered a game like this, and I've covered thousands and thousands of games in my day.
58 straight points by Canton Galva. Josiah Sims takes the direct snap. Sims runs out of real estate and is swarmed by the blue and red. They'll give him maybe 1 to the 20. 4th down and 14 for St. Francis with 3:45 to go.
They gave him a yard, and Sims had been a guy that we thought would be a factor offensively in this game. Well, Canton Galva's going back for the punt, but there's no way they're going to punt the ball down 22.
4th and 14. St. Francis will try for one more conversion, and a punt here would be throwing in the towel, which I don't think they'll do.
No, they won't punt.
Down to 4 seconds on the play clock. Down to 3. They snap it at the right moment. Blanca to pass. Blanca stepping up. Blanca escapes. Throws one all the way down the field. Josiah Sims behind the defense, but overthrown and incomplete. And the Canton Galva defense holds with 3:05 to go.
And Canton Galva could very well put another touchdown on the board, because right now this St. Francis team is just in a state of shock, and they're just kind of falling.
St. Francis has put in its backups.
Wow. Exactly. What backups they have. They only have 17 guys on their roster, and there's some guys now. And I don't know if Shelby Hoppus has realized that, but he's going to – now we have a timeout.
There's a flag for too many St. Francis Indians on the field, but they got the timeout first.
Yeah. And I think you might see maybe Maltby come in for Canton Galva. I mean, they're conceding. So if you're Canton Galva, I think you just put your backups in and just run the ball straight ahead.
What an unbelievable day here in Newton at Fisher Field. For those of you that are just now tuning in and got the text at halftime that said, oh boy, the Eagles are down 36-0, so much for that. Well, you should have stayed tuned. They were down 36-14 at half. They found a way to come up with 4 consecutive stops to begin the second half. They had 4 consecutive scores. Since then, they've scored 3 more times, and they have scored 58 consecutive points to lead 58-36 with 3:05 to go.
Now, if you're
and have the ball.
Yeah, now they've got their backups in. If you're Canton Galva, do you put your backups in, or you just run just dives?
1st and 10 from the 20. Hand off Braden Collins. Collins to the outside. Collins stays on his feet, picks up the first down, and has got 13 yards. 1st and goal at the 7. First and goal from the 7. And for the first time, I think, in the last 40 minutes, these women in front of our crowd, Mike, have stopped screaming. It's been that much fun.
They're exhausted. They've got to be exhausted.
They have just been screaming and screaming and screaming, because that's the way this second half has been. 1st and goal from the 8 with 2:40 to go. Landon Everett with Braden Collins behind him as they let the play clock wind down to 7, down to 6. Everett takes a snap. Hands off, Braden Collins. Collins lowers his shoulder and dives, but is just shy of the goal line. 2nd and goal from the 1 coming up. Canton Galva with a 22-point lead and 2:15 to go. And they are planning the parade, planning the party.
Oh, I got a feeling it's going to be pretty electric in Canton and Galva tonight.
2nd down and goal from the 1 with 2 minutes left to go. They can score one more touchdown to put the exclamation point on maybe the greatest comeback in state championship game football history. Everett takes a snap, gives off Braden Collins, and he's into the end zone from the 1. Touchdown Eagles. 64-36 with 1:47 to go.
And we talked about the 8-man game, just how crazy it can be. This has just been a remarkable turnaround.
Canton Galva has scored 64 consecutive points.
And now the backups come in for Canton Galva.
For the 2-point conversion, and a standing ovation here from the near sideline at Fisher Field. It's going to be a Canton Galva coronation this afternoon here in Newton, as the Eagles will have to take the delay of game or a timeout.
They have scored. If they scored the 2-point conversion here, they scored 40 points in the second half. I'm sorry, that's not correct.
They scored 50 in the second half.
Yeah, math's hard. Math is a hard subject.
64-36, Garrett Maltby in the game for the 2-point conversion. The freshman quarterback, hands off, near side. Eagles racing to the goal line and scoring. It's Andre Patton that scores. The senior running back who has 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. That one a 2-point conversion. And Canton Galva, after trailing by 36, now leads by 30, 66-36.
Okay, Christmas, this is just insane.
Unreal today from Fisher Field. And I think anybody who has ever lived in Canton or Galva showed up today at Fisher Field, and I think all those people at halftime of this game were wishing they hadn't. It was 36-14. and it was not looking good. And that's being honest.
Yeah.
We were thinking, okay, how many plays before this is over in the second half?
Yeah.
We were thinking this is going to be a 45-point blowout, and what a bummer to end this season. But that's not what Shelby Hoppus and the Canton Galva Eagles were thinking, Steve. They were thinking just one more stop.
Yeah.
Just one more stop. And they did it, and did it, and did it, and kept on going. And they have scored 66 straight points to lead 66-36.
And what did we say at halftime? It has to start with the defense because they had to get stops to give the offense a chance.
Brandon Huff with a kickoff here for Canton Galva with 1:47 to go. Josiah Sims makes the grab at his 12. Sims can't get away. Sims somehow stays on his feet. Sims now taken down at the 17.
Great effort that time. Broke about 4 tackles.
This has been about the craziest game I can remember because both of these teams have had so many offensive possessions.
Yeah.
This is possession number 19 for St. Francis in this game.
We just don't see that many possessions in the 11-man game.
1:39 to go in the game. St. Francis starts at its own 18. Canton Galva with a 30-point lead, and the backups are in. Both teams have put in the reserves. Well, at least Canton Galva's defense is. There are a few reserves mixed in for St. Francis. Josiah Sims will run to the outside. Sims cuts back in and will pick up about 6, making his way to the 25-yard line. Second down and 3 with 1:25 to go.
And remember, St. Francis with only 3 seniors on their team. I got a feeling there's a really good chance if Little River isn't there next year, it's going to be St. Francis again because Little River didn't have very many seniors either.
Second down and 3 from the 25 with 1:05 to go. St. Francis is in no hurry. Josiah Sims will take the direct snap and run here to the near side. Sims trying to bounce to the outside. Sims hit once, hit twice, and taken down by the Eagles back at the 23. With 50 seconds to go, St. Francis does have to run one more play. What a comeback. What a season. A 13-0 season it's going to be for Canton Galva. And I'll repeat it again. 4 years ago, they had to forfeit a game because they didn't have 8 players.
That's right.
And in 4 years, well, some wonderful things can happen.
Yeah.
Down to 20 seconds remaining. St. Francis with a 3rd down and 6, but it's not going to matter. Sims will run. Josiah Sims running here to the near side. If he stays in bounds, then this game will end, but he runs out of bounds, so I believe St. Francis will get one more play. There's 11 seconds left. Picks up the 1st down to the Canton Galva 35. And that is St. Francis's first down, I believe, of the second half. They have not had many. Ball is on the 35. St. Francis will run one more play as long as they stay in bounds. They'll bring the starters back in for one more play as Canton Galva is trying to get off the field. St. Francis will snap the ball one more time. Shadron Blanca runs up the middle, trying to get to the outside. Blanca stopped, trying to inch toward the boundary. 2 seconds, 1 second. It's a comeback for the ages and a Canton Galva coronation as the Eagles win it 66-36. And the first state championship in program history belongs to the 2019 Canton Galva Eagles, the 8-man Division I state champions. And they score the game's final 66 points, and they cap off a 13-0 perfect season.
Oh, I'm speechless. I really am. And we haven't seen this team in person all year, but I'm just so happy for Coach Hoppus, his players, his staff, and the folks in Canton and Galva because they are so passionate about their football. They've always been as intense and as supportive as any fans in the state. And congratulations that they finally bring home that state championship. I remember. My first year, I was a Cub reporter. I'd only been here about 3 months. Canton Galva played down at Hutchinson against Trinity, lost 8-6. And, I'm thinking, they'll get a lot more chances to play for a state championship. Well, you never know. They only had one other time to play for a state championship, and they lost that game.
Are they coming out?
His 3rd try. Just an amazing game because I don't know what the St. Francis kids did, what's going through their mind because they were incredible in that first half.
It was 36-0. St. Francis with 3 minutes left to go in the game. 2 minutes left to go in the game. And the Eagles scored a touchdown. St. Francis got the ball back, and Canton Galva forced the turnover. Took it in, made it 36-14 again. And from then on, it was all Eagles as they scored 52 second half points. All the way to the second half, 66-7.
And the Federal State Champion, couple things. It's going to be hard to do without crying for one, so bear with me. But what happened today, you will never forget for the rest of your lives, and it's something I still can't believe. Okay? I'm still involved. You guys worked so stinking hard all year, all summer. I told everybody that all the year. Took everybody's best shot. And you are a state champion. I couldn't be more proud of each and every one of you guys. For the community, thank you so much. Dinners, team dinners, fire trucks, the town praise, all that stuff. You guys are amazing. That's for these guys and the experience they got with you guys, putting all that together and being there for them. It's again something we'll remember for the rest of our lives. So thank you guys very much. You're great. So thank you. She's here, but I just want to thank my wife. I haven't been on the last 3 weeks, basically, and she puts up with my 3 behaviors. So I want to thank these 3 gentlemen over here. Coach O'Connor puts in more time than any assistant coach in the state. I promise you that. You will not find a man. Coach Nightingale does this for free. Coach Revere is pretty good over to me. No, thank you very much. These guys work their tails off every day for the last 3 weeks. And I don't know if you guys know this, we took out 3 undefeated teams the last 3 weeks. So. I'll end with this. Your Principal Carol Wilson. Way to go, way to go! There's a saying I really like, and it's never been more appropriate than today in 28 years that I've been involved with athletics. And that statement is, the harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. You guys did surrender today. This community, this administration, and these coaches, we are so proud of you. We're proud of the coaches. I don't know of any football team in the state of Kansas that worked as hard as the coaches and players on this team. You guys deserve it. Thank you so much. And I've been told that we're probably going to find a time to shoot some fireworks after dark sometime to celebrate this. So pay attention when that might happen. The other thing is, plan on going to the All Schools Parade, because I bet there'll be a float with these guys on it. Congratulations, fellas. Let's meet your state champions. Freshman, number 2, Jason Lastry. Let's see here, number 3, Ginger Polchik. Let's see here, number 4, Linda. Let's see here, number 5, Andre Patton. Let's see here, number 9, Mason the junior, number 10, Brandon the freshman, number 16, Derek Larry. The sophomore, number 12, Xavier Westbrook. The sophomore, number 21, Tracy. Freshman number 23, Benson Alcala. The freshman number 24, Nicholas Evans. The freshman number 30, Ryder Thurston. The junior number 33, Brandon Kelly. The freshman number 34, Caleb Hoffner. The senior number 35, Nick. The freshman, number 40, Brandon Diana. The junior, number 42, Keith Electra. The freshman, number 50, TJ Curry. The sophomore, number 52, Brandon Diana. The junior, number 58, Clara Curry. The freshman, number 62, Preston Nixon. A senior, number 66, Drew and a junior, number 88, Tyler. Thank you all for coming out, braving this wind and cold. Let's get inside our home and enjoy this state championship.